All right. Welcome everybody. Anyone who's watching. Today, I'm having a conversation with Brian Fisher, who has a YouTube channel called Antarctic Expedition. Not many videos there, but maybe that'll change. But you definitely are watching a lot of the videos that I'm watching, and we're pretty much in the same spot. We went through the indoctrination of the societal education, I'd say. And so let me know how you got here. Um, just what you're doing before, when conspiracies, other stuff, and how you got into flat Earth and
Yeah,
things like that.
yeah, definitely. And I do like, my channel is obviously like tiny right now, right? I just created it essentially like a few weeks ago. But yeah, I never really had a real good reason to, like, I felt like, nothing against other channels by any means, that like various topics and everything. But I always wanted to like have a purpose for it, like, I mean, I love talking about everything, but I always wanted to sort of have a purpose. And like, I kind of finally found one that I thought was viable, but we'll get into that.
Mhm.
But anyway, yeah, no, I actually, as far as school goes, I went to college for political science, government politics, whatever. But over in Colorado State, I don't know why I thought you lived in Colorado, but yeah, I was like shouting out all those beers and everything. But I thought you were in Colorado. Like, oh yeah,
The,
but
yeah.
sorry, but yeah, no. So I did. I've always been interested in the topic. Who's running the world, what's really going on, what sort of, who's pulling the strings, is there bad things happening or good things, everything's fine, like where is society sort of going? And so the whole topic, kind of interested me. And as far as flat Earth specifically, it took really, I've believed in flat Earth for maybe a year and a half, I want to say.
That's a
And I
while.
didn't,
Yeah.
yeah, it's getting to be a decent amount of time.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, no, I discovered it the same way, frankly, as everybody else, which is the whole, you're researching all, conspiracy type videos, right? You're looking behind the scenes type videos, and then there's the recommendations on the right, and it's like flat Earth, and you're like, dude, I mean, I'll look at it, and you go into skepticism and everything, like everyone does, and you're like, oh, this is nonsense, and then you see stuff way you shouldn't be able to see, and you're like, shit, like how if you're very logical, then there's just no way to reason that away.
What was like the breaking point, the point in which you just kind of, okay, now I'm a flat earther, it looks like, because everyone has to reach that point. How much evidence can you just find, or not find in this case, that it's not a globe? And until you realize, okay, I'm there. I went past the point of no return, you know.
It really, like, I mean, there's, as we both know, there's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of reasons to disbelieve everything they're putting out, and to have more belief in what smaller normal people are going out and discovering for themselves. But I definitely always come back to the far away that you shouldn't be able to see according to the GitHub Earth curve calculator, right? Eight
Uh-huh.
inches per mile squared.
Yeah.
And like I really think that's, not saying everything hinges on that, but like that's definitely, whenever people ask me, what's the number? Why do you believe that? I always go back to the same thing. I'm like, explain this to me, like explain to me how I can see something that should be blocked by Earth. You can't, like, you just can't. So that's, that's definitely it.
Do you have any family members or siblings who think the same way?
I do not. No, definitely not. But I do have a roommate, for instance, housemate or whatever. He that I believe the same thing. So that's really fun. Really got fortunate there. He definitely is one of those people who listen to a lot of things. Really smart guy. I'll have him on my show at some point. So if you end up following my channel and stuff, you'll see him. He's a really nice guy, really smart guy. And he does believe the same thing. So it's very nice to be able to talk to somebody about it, that lives in the same house as you. And yeah, actually, I have another roommate as well. I have a couple of roommates, and the other one is open-minded, doesn't believe flat Earth, but it is open-minded.
Yeah.
So it's good. Yeah.
Um, I mean, like I was watching the Wisecrack. If you didn't know Wisecrack, there's a YouTube channel with like 2.58 million subs. So it's a lot
Okay.
of subs.
Yeah.
They don't keep their live streams up, so I want to go ahead and record it afterwards and replay it because I think I saw up to like 1.4 to 1.8 thousand live viewers.
Oh
So there's
well.
a lot of people watching it. They're going over the Behind the Curve documentary. I still haven't seen it. I know what it's gonna be.
It's
So,
exactly that. It's exactly that.
but I just kind of like their thought process because when they're talking about it, they can't resort to ad hominems. They might because they'll start saying they're flat earthers are crazy. They don't have critical thinking or something like that. And when we it's funny because I just let it in. I was like, okay, are you done? Are you done with the attacking? Can we ask you a couple questions of how much you know? And
Yeah.
then it just kind of boils down to they don't know that much, and um, they have this cognitive dissonance that they'll find, and that's why they get angry. And so, how do you approach someone um, when when uh, when the conversation comes up about you're a flat earther?
Yeah, which is I think very very under talked about topics. I like that you bring it up because it's challenging for everybody, and if you approach it in a lot of people approach it with a little bit guards up, so they end up kind of attacking and stuff like that. So it's very you have to be very tactful about it. And the way I do it, which I've told a number of people in my day to day life, and I feel like I'm getting somewhere in my approach with it, which is I'm extremely like casual about it, and I really underplay it, the importance of it, how much I care about it, because a lot of people feel like you're fixated, right? Like, oh, you believe flat Earth, like you're just going to talk about it and try to convince me and that, and really, it's just about it sales. You're selling yourself, so you just try to be like, yes, this is what I believe. Also, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. Like it's all right, no big deal. Like who cares? Well, yeah, you think it's around, I think it's fly. Who cares? It doesn't affect my day to day life. Not a big deal. I really try to like play it very. I don't like to talk about it a lot. As I do, I like talking about it and I like bringing it up to people, but very short. And I try to be the one to get out of the conversation because they always expect you to be the one to try to keep the conversation going. So I
Mm-hmm.
always try to change the topic a little bit, casually change the topic first to make it seem like I'm not super into it and like I don't want to just sit there and talk about it. I find that being people really kind of let their guards down a little bit there when you're not so imposing. So I definitely do that. And when people, that's like kind of general, but yeah, when people ask, well, why do you believe that? Right. Then I'm like, then I go straight to I really try to break it down very simply. And people always want to know your flag, your main, why you're convinced. Show me one thing. And so as much as I want to show them all of the things, there's I go straight to the seeing things far away, and I kind of break it down, and I'm like, yeah, well, you know how the Earth has a curve, and they're like, oh yeah, but it's really big. Yeah, I know it is very big, and it's hard to tell a curve, but there is a curve, and you can actually determine if you're standing on the ground, you look 30 miles away, there is a few hundred feet that you're losing there. You may be surprised at how quickly it does curve over just maybe a 30 to 40 mile distance. But there's an actual calculation. I'm like, you can look it up. If there's a real thing, and you can sit there and look at video after video and picture after picture and see things at a distance. You should be able to see if there was curved, and I'm like, that's it.
One good thing to point out is that curvature calculation isn't from flat earthers. It's from the
Yeah,
scientists, the globe earthers. Was it NASA that
good
actually had
point.
it?
I just saw it on GitHub. I
Okay,
just saw
yeah.
the GitHub.
I just wondered. I have to double check on who did the initial calculations, but I mean, obviously, if it's a globe, they know the globe calculation. The curvature calculation. They're the ones providing it, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's yeah. For me, like I haven't really had the conversation all too much. Like people say, man, you just look at conspiracy theories too much. And I'm like, have there ever been conspiracy theories that came true in the past? And they're gonna say yeah, and it's like so conspiracy theory is just not believing in the formal the the it's not formal. It's the
Yeah, the line, the company line, man,
yeah,
like the regular,
yeah, like the government's gonna tell you their story, you
the
know,
script,
the official
yeah,
story. That's what it's called, the
official
official
story. There
story.
you go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
And
was trying to
so
think of it too.
and so it's like, what you think it's a was it psyop or inside job for 9/11, whatever? And I'm like saying, nah, I just you could just start with, I don't think the official narrative holds up to scrutiny. And then I go up on to them and say, so did we invade Iraq because we found weapons of mass destruction? And they go, uh, so if they go, yeah, and we go, well, where's the weapons of mass destruction? And it was never found. And we could cite multiple sources where they never found it, right? But they'll still say yes, or they'll go no. It's like, right there. You just question and don't believe the official narrative. So then they start getting into the cognitive dissonance and saying that's different, blah blah blah. And
Yeah,
and it's also not about belief for me. Uh, it's been hard because I always wanted to pick something I could believe in, and I think I guess we'll start diving into it in a little bit. Exploring the magnetic North Pole is where it starts getting into belief, because we have so little evidence. We have so little um,
just knowledge in
videos,
general.
photographs of actual people going there and exploring just on their own. And that's the great thing about right now with social media, is an explosion of independent thinkers and artists and whatever, providing their own observations, their own videos, their own pictures, rather than always
Very,
getting
very
everything from,
democratizing. Yeah, it's
yeah.
very democratizing, like information, and everybody's a reporter now. Video and post it. You mentioned 9/11 too. That's yeah, that was definitely a major tipping point for me. Where I was like, "Holy, like, okay, this is real. Like, they're actually lying about some stuff." That was definitely loose change, right? Watched loose change, and I was like, "Oh man,
Hmm.
like, they're definitely that was a lie. That was definitely a lie." I had somebody come into my political science class one time, like one upper division, class, and they were like, they're CIA, career CIA guy, and like I was like, hey, like, so why aren't there any like pictures or videos of that plane that like supposedly hit the Pentagon? Like, what's up with that? And he's like, 2 years after 9/11. He's like, I don't even know. What do you mean? I was like, what do you mean? What do I mean? Like, that was your headquarters. You don't know that there's no videos or pictures of that? Like, you never Googled the kind of crazy, but a little off topic.
And no problem. Um, just to let you know, when you move around a lot, I think your webcam has a little bit of trouble of capturing it, so it stutters a little bit.
Shoot.
So you might have to just be like really robotic and just
Yeah.
just try to be still.
Less big hand movements.
Actually,
Sorry.
actually it's better now. Oh, okay, there, just stuttered. But okay, so
Yeah.
that's the other thing
Go on.
with the magnetic North Pole. It says my internet connection's unstable. Let me see if it might be me. Do I have anything?
Yeah. Yeah, it might be mine too. So.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Sorry for that little pause. Oh, it's okay.
That's all right. It could
Frequencies.
be me too.
Yeah, journalism was live. I was watching it right up to this. Um, one of the things I like to point out a lot is we've got we've landed on supposedly landed on the moon. 6 out of 6 times. Is it 5 out of 5 times? 6 out of 6. Right. Um, and we never had an incident. We've had, well, they had hundreds of hours of videos and thousands of photos, and of course, only one photo or one video looking at Earth.
Yep.
And yet we don't really have that on the magnetic North Pole. We don't have one video. They say it's hard to get to. That's why they can't really have pictures, videos of it. Heck, we went to the moon. That's a lot harder than getting to the center of the Earth, the magnetic, North Pole. So I just think that's just weird. And same thing with the Antarctic. I mean, we really don't have an exploration of it. Uh, we've went to the moon a lot. We got a lot of videos of that. At most, they film people like um, skiing, ice skiing, um, and that they have a pole. The barber's pole is red and white, very symbolic. Pictures of there, but they could take it
They
anywhere.
have
They could
the,
go ahead.
they have all the flags around, all the flags. Like, and take pictures of all the countries that have the treaty, right? That have the treaty. There's like 50 countries or something. They all have their flags planted around the harbor pole there. Yep. But it really I mean, because you talked about the North Pole and Antarctica, it seems, and maybe you're more interested in.
Hold on.
Actually,
You're kind of.
I'll,
Give me a second. Hold on. You're kind of breaking up. I'm just wondering if that's. Let me see if I
it
close.
could be me. I could also try my computer phone. Doesn't seem
Sure.
to
Yeah,
be
because I can't hear you.
phone.
It's like the robotic breaking up voice.
All right, sorry about that, man. I thought there might have some issues with it.
It's all right.
All right, yeah, let me.
Like it's good now. I don't know what happened, but
All right, I'll get it on just in case it happens. If it starts happening again, then I'll make a switch
okay.
and go to hopefully the computer works.
Yeah. All right. It's going good. So go ahead.
Yeah. So like I said, I would rather go to explore the North Pole than go to explore Antarctica. Like for sure, for the same reasons, basically the same reasons that you probably think about rather going to the North Pole. I remember that was our first conversation that kind of got you talking. Was like, oh man, you're going to the wrong place. And I agree with you. I would rather go to the North Pole, but the thing is, like the North Pole it's a very small location, right? It's one point, like so that's very easy to cover up, and literally and figurative. You can just stack snow on top of whatever's up there, right? And be like, okay, sorry, it's enough to see here, or put a military base up there in a small, relatively small area. Sorry, can't enter, and there you go. And it's like if we have an expedition that goes to the North Pole and we run into a military base, and like, no, this is the magnetic North Pole, or this is underneath the North Star, right? It's like Polaris, right? Then it's like, they're like, sorry, it's a military base, like you can't come here. It's not like we're hiding anything. It's just there's just a base here, and like it's just, so they could like talk it away, and it would just all sort of go away. That is the reason I'm like Antarctica, because Antarctica, in my opinion, and I believe in your opinion, is impulsive across. It's impossible, right? You can't go to Antarctica and go in a straight line ish, right? Basically a straight line and go across it, because in our model, that's going to the opposite side of the entire plane, right? So, and on a globe model, of course, that's easily doable. And so and I've gotten an interesting reception so far, because the people I've talked to, globe believers, I tell them like, yeah, I kind of want to go across Antarctica because, I just want to go across it. I think like, that's sort of in my belief is that actually the Earth is flat, and I'd have some soft gloves when I say that and everything. But I'm like, yeah, I think the Earth's flat, and I don't think it's possible to do. And like, but if it is possible, then why not? Let's just put an end to whatever debate is out there, whatever little debate there is out there of the shape of the Earth, because of course most people believe it's a globe, which is fine. I just happen to believe it's flat. I just want to go find out and put an end to the conversation. And ideally, what happens, right, or not, maybe not ideally, like there's a big element of adventure involved, all questioning of like, who knows what happens out there, right? Because I don't know what you believe. I don't know if there's a firmament or not. Like I don't know how far. Who knows? It's just a big question mark. I do think it's probably a firmament, but I really have no idea. But let's say that's what happens, right? You go out there with a group of people, and you hit the firmament. Then at that point, if everybody knows that it's flat, there's a firmament, and then you have the momentum and attention of everybody is like, oh, this one group discovered this crazy event. Everybody's looking at that group. We need to go to the North Pole, people, and that's how you switch it and go to where you really want to go, which is the North Pole. Which yeah.
I think one. one reason, as far as evidence, I think the North Pole, magnetic North Pole, might be a little bit easier to just get people to believe it. It's not really about believing it, but just take the take the actual word of whoever takes the video or pictures. Is you have a reference point. You've got the compass that you can keep showing in the video, and you've got the you got Polaris, the North Star, which you can use as a reference point. Is like this is as straight above as you can get. Uh, you've got two reference points. You've got the compass, if it changes directions or whichever way you walk, and you got Polaris. South Pole is a totally different story because you've got so many directions in the flat Earth model of Antarctica. And south
Mm-hmm.
is just any direction away from the North Pole, and the
Right.
reference points are going to be. It's really going to have to depend on the constellations at that part of, and here we can't really use a hemisphere, right? It's just gonna be a little, it's weird as far as getting
Well,
the
if
reference
you
points.
if you go south, if you go south, let me know if my connection messes up here. But if you go south, you're going away from the North Pole, right? And you're going still going in one direction. So if you're still heading in that one direction, take a compass, right? It's always going to be pointing, south, right? You're going south, it's pointing away from the North Pole. You're still going to go in that one direction. Then you will inevitably hit that wall, right? Or whatever's out there. You're always going to go in the correct direction. You're going to go out there and all of a sudden start going around, right? You're always pointing away from that central North Pole location. And I really would say that that's even much easier than, because at the North Pole, the videos I've seen at the North Pole of people going up there, their compasses always go wacky. And I know, like I mentioned that to you, but it was like their compasses always go crazy. They just start spinning and stuff from the videos that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, that could be a result potentially of them putting a bunch of magnets up there to intentionally mess up your compass, right? Or whatever they do to mess it up. But it does seem like it kind of goes away at the North Pole.
Yeah, that is a good one. Like I didn't think of it, but that does make sense if military had installations up there, especially a certain distance, latitude line, and just bury a whole bunch of magnetic lodestones or something like that, and just anyone that's trying to go up there is like, oh, I guess I reached the North Pole, but then like, that's why you need the second reference point, which is the constellations Polaris.
Right. Yep. Totally accurate. And that's the challenge up there for sure will be that, because even you can find Polaris and go underneath it, but even that's, I mean, I'm no astrologer, right? Or astronomer, right? Astronomer. But that's still pretty tricky to find that direct under Polaris point. Like you can, you know, that would just be a little bit challenging as well, I guess. I mean, it sounds like doable for sure, but it would be like, am I right under it or am I like 100 miles off? Right? Like it's like it would just be like it would be challenging, I guess, but doable.
And let's see. I think that hard part, like as far as the stories with the magnetic North Pole, it starts getting warmer, and the stories, at least they say, it's not as cold as people say it is. It has its own type of light, is what a lot of people who've actually said they've been there and came back, as far as historical notes. And Antarctic, though, it just gets colder, it gets darker. They're saying, most likely you'll have like 24-hour night times. There's not a lot of animal life down there in the Antarctic. I think penguins is about it. It's too cold for most animals to
Mm-hmm.
thrive. The Arctic is almost the opposite. There's so much sea life in the Arctic. There's mammalian life in the North Pole. There's birds that migrate to the magnetic North Pole, right? But and here's another thing, like certain sayings, when things go south, right, that means things are going bad. So
Yeah, true. That's yeah, that's true. And yeah, I do. Like I said, I totally agree. I think it's like I would rather go to the North Pole. It sounds nicer. It sounds like it could be a nice place. It could be this Eden right area and everything. And like I said, yeah, I would much rather go there. But
yeah.
I just the videos that I've seen of it, there's more of them out there and seemingly more likely to be legit. Not saying for sure, but they seem reasonably legit. And you basically have to spend like the same as it takes to go to Antarctica, which you got to spend like 10K or so, depending how you want to get to the North Pole. If you want to go by the boat that they usually take the icebreaker, then that'll get you there. But supposedly there, it's not really like who knows where they're actually going, and they end up at some random place. And you jump off on some ice and then hop back on the boat, and I'm sure you're not allowed to just break away from the from like all the people and just go do your own thing. So it's a huge financial challenge, and it sounds like they really, if you want to go independently explore, then it's even a more major financial and time consuming operation.
Sorry, I just had to fix my mic.
That's all right. I'm gonna get some more light on myself really quick.
Okay.
I can tell my face is like dark. It'll take 2 seconds.
No problem. One of the things that I'll probably ask you is I'll just wait till you're back.
I'm back. I mean, I can hear you.
Okay, you're off the ship. That's another thing with the Antarctic. You need a ship to get up there. I hear. Magnetic North Pole, you could theoretically make it through walking, but you don't need a huge ship. You could go on like a fishing sloop. But say you're able to navigate up, because not only do you need a ship, but maybe there's a helicopter or something. But climbing up, you're gonna have to do some ice climbing, because you're gonna be climbing up on the ice, and then you might make it over. And then, how far do you go before you turn back when you don't find anything? Like, if there is no firmament, if there's a firmament, but it's like a sandwich. Say, it's just a compression layer. That's all it is, right? And there is no dome. And it can go on forever. It's like, how far do you go until you turn back? Say you go 100 miles, 200 miles, 300 miles. You don't find any weird evidence. It's like, when do you decide to make the return trip?
I mean, it's a good question. It's a good point. And I'd say there's a couple different ways to answer that. Number one, I guess, would be like, how much resources do I have? Who all is with me, right? And like, that's very practical. Is like, how far can I go, right? But and when you talk about another way to think about it is like, ideally I want to go across, right? Which is like, we think is impossible and everything. But I'd say when I would personally turn back would maybe be when 24 hours in the day go by and I haven't seen the sun. That would be when I'd maybe start to consider, like, okay, guys, like, the sun's not even here anymore. Like, clearly we're in just the middle of nowhere, infinite, whatever, right? Infinite plane is true. Like, let's get the hell out of here and head north. Hopefully the compass still works and you just retrace your steps, right?
Yeah. Can you imagine being out in just in Iceland with no sun for 24 hours? That's
which I'll go down there. I'll go down there when it's their summer, right? So it should be 24-hour sun or whatever. But I'll go there. I'll be going there when it's I should plan it where there's sun down there. So I'll go when there's hopefully sun down there, and that's not seeing sun. That's proof right there, right? But I guess I'll go as far as I can. Is really the answer. Is I'm going to go as far as I possibly can, reasonably safely.
Yeah, and there's an issue with going in groups. Same thing with the magnetic North Pole. That's why I like to say I'd rather go alone, because if you go with someone else, all it takes is one little injury, one sickness, whatever, with that entire group. The entire group gets slowed down, or they have to turn back just to save that one person's life. So if you go with a group of 10, someone breaks their arm, breaks their leg, they need medical attention. What do? Do you turn back or do you keep going? Right?
Yeah. And who knows, right? Who knows what the situation is? Obviously, safety is going to be paramount, but yeah, I would say, like, when I hear that, I'm like, oh, just send like most of them back with the guy and get them back safely, and the rest of us, the more, whoever else is going to come on with me, and like, let's go. I don't want to turn around. Like, if it ends up being just me and everyone has to take their injured people back, I'll just keep going out. In my head anyway, I'd like to think I would do that, but that's very, who knows, right? Like, situational. I'm just going to go as far as I can is really the answer.
Yeah. And that's a tough part. And I think like, the stories of the magnetic North Pole are so different than the Antarctic that the stories say you have to have a child of a mind of a child. You know, you have to be childlike to, and you have to believe certain things with the magnetic North Pole, and so I feel like if you're in a group, it's just gonna be a different dynamic, and maybe some people in the group are just there to explore, but they're not there to expect to see what they're expected to see. So maybe they won't see anything if certain people who put some belief or faith into it see something, and then
Okay, like,
and then what do you do?
like,
Is like I see something, and they're going, no, you're delusional. It's like, no, I'm not delusional. I see it. I know you don't see it, but that's because you don't believe, etc. And then there could be a potential fight. You know, it's like I'm gonna take you back. You're delusional. But also, if you go on ahead, it's like you're leaving that person behind on their own, or that group, and so how long do they wait for you, etc. So that's why I think the group dynamics a detriment. Although it is great if you're all in sync online, and there is no like one person who's some covert agent or something like that. And you know, trust factor is also another big thing within a group. So it's I don't know, there's just a lot to watch out for. But the thing is, solo journeys are more dangerous.
way more dangerous.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I see your point. I mean, you make valid points, but I would be going with a group. I mean, some people in some sports, for instance, like it was like um uh what's it called, what's that skiing called where you're doing the
Cross country skiing.
great, thank you, cross country skiing.
Yeah.
Cross country skiing. They have like they'll do events and stuff where they'll have a team, right, of like 4 people, and after like a quarter of the way, the number one guy will peel off, the guy breaking trail, the hardest job, right? The guy in the front will peel off, and then the next guy will peel off later, and the next guy will peel off later.
Yeah.
So you could go with a group and do the same mentality, right? It's like you go 25% in with everybody, and then they leave their supplies, as many supplies as they can, you know, all the good stuff with you, and you try to go farther, and you kind of operate like that. That could be a good strategy.
A relay system too. My thoughts was someone sets a base camp every 20 miles. So if you're in trouble, you just go back 20 miles. You could probably reach that in half a day. And so you have someone who goes, you know, I don't really want to cross the entire Antarctic, but you know, we'll set up base camp. You know, we'll have a lot of supplies. We'll be nice and warm with heaters and everything else. And so they're there near the edge where the Antarctic Ocean is, and then from there people go another 20 to 50 miles south, and someone else sets up base camp saying, yeah, we'll stay here for a little while, see if you guys see anything. You know, if you do, just let us know, and then we'll track up whatever. So you have this just kind of a relay system.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have multiple camps. I agree. It would be more than like 20 miles though, because that thing is Antarctica supposedly is like, what is it? It's like 2,500, maybe 3,000 miles across, something like that. I could be wrong, 2,000 to 3,000, maybe 3. But so it'd be, you know, that's you'd have to set up camp like every 500 miles or something like that. It would be more realistic, and there's so many more challenges. I mean, we're talking about stuff that's fun to talk about and it's interesting, but there's so many challenges, and it's going to be how many people do I have involved in this is gonna determine a lot. And how much financing do I have, and how exactly, I don't even know how I'm gonna be moving, right? Like ideally I get a sled, right, a snowmobile, and you freaking just wreck across, right? Just bring a bunch of gas and just rip it, like, and why not? Like they should let you do that. I've seen videos of them taking a snow cat, a big old snow cat, across the Antarctica in the video. It's like, well, why don't I just take that same route? You know, like, why don't you let me do that? Like, what's up with that? But if it turns out that I have to take a slower route, like by my own legs and cross country ski, you know, across, or, you know, potentially throw them on my back and do some snowshoeing part of the way, then it's really however I can make it happen. And it's because this is so long from now. I mean, I have 4 subscribers. Like, when I hit 100,000, if that ever happens, if that day comes, that's when I'm leaving. And so, like, there's a lot of time between here and now and then. There's a lot of people, a lot of conversations I'm gonna have, like I'm having with you, where I'm gonna gain a lot of information and probably change my my approach. So like, it's definitely going to be a work in progress, but in the end, it's you hit 100,000. We're going south. Let's see how far we can get. Let's try to go across if it's theoretically possible. But,
I mean, I think it'd be good. It'd be if it could gain traction. I mean, if you could get 100 people or even 1,000 people to go on a public expedition to Antarctica, you know, you do the formal requests. You've got the itinerary, all this other stuff, and but the thing is, I think if it's going to be that big, they're going to know, and they'll either say no, you can't, or here are your restrictions. And it's like, are you?
They will know. They will know. You're right, and you're totally right. And I expect, and a person who believes in the globe, most of them, when they've brought up the same thing that you just did, they like, nobody's stopping you. Like, there's no government agency is going to stop you. Why don't you just go find the edge? Like, you hear that a lot, right? Like, go find the edge yourself. Why don't you go to the edge? I hear that a lot, and I'm like, I'm trying. Now I can say, like, yeah, I'm trying, and I do think that having, I didn't pick 100,000 out of nowhere, right? Like a lot of the flat Earth influencers, right, or whatever, like main people, right? Like Jeranism, for instance, right? He has like 170,000. So it's like I'm picking a number that's very realistic if people in the flat Earth community jumped on board. It would happen tomorrow, right? If all like I'm just picking a realistic number, and it's an amount where like everybody in the flat Earth community would be watching, and so that would be enough where it'd be like, okay, I'm getting a lot of support from a lot of different people. I'm getting a lot of quality ideas. Hopefully, it's taken some amount of time to build up. And whatever. I don't know. I like that number. I think it's very realistic and allows me time to plan and allows the whole community to really actually be involved and have a chance to join. Because, dude, right? Like a lot of people out there are like, oh, like I have one guy like, where's my backpack, man? He's like, let's go. Like, so there's a lot of people who want to come, man. And who am I to say no? Like, yeah, let's go see what we can do. And to make another point with that is because they know I'm going, right? And I totally have thought that through. I'm like, man, they're going to know, they're going to turn me around. That's what I expect to happen. It is, it sucks, but that seems likely, right? And but the issue is Antarctica has a lot of, if it's around, right, like we think, and it's all the way around Earth, there's a lot of borders. And when you have that many borders, if I go with all this group of people and we have this much attention on it, right, then somebody else is going to be maybe trying at the same time that I do in a totally different location on the planet, right?
That's a good idea.
The perfect distraction, man. If I'm the main crew and all the attention's on me, and there's like 2, 3, 4 other splinter cells, right, like launching out at the same time, then maybe they'll be the ones to do it, and it's great, like. So
yeah, that'd be cool. Like if he can get, let's say, 50 teams all around the world going at the same day out to just explore as far in the Arctic they can with 50 teams of, say, 12 people. 12 people is a decent number. I mean, that's 600 people. That's not a hard. It can't be that hard to conjure up. But
I do think that would be nice. But I also think like if it's all through me, right, or my channel, right, or whatever, and it's all in the same or whatever. Sorry, like if it's whatever, it's one cohesive group that are all like, we're 60 teams of 12 people. Let's all go at the same time. Then they're still going to track those 60 people, 60 groups all at the same time. Like the way I personally envision it is more like, I'm going with one big group or even like a bunch of groups, like you're saying, honestly, like, and we all go to different places at the same time. Okay, let's all do that. And I'm still thinking that the person who makes it is going to be the one watching it all, putting a team together all underground and not talking about it even a little bit. And they go thing but a wind up camera, so they're off grid completely, right? And like the night, and they're the ones that go out and actually can find it. I think that would be pretty likely.
Yeah, I mean, you can always have multiple groups planning it out in the open, and then multiple groups planning it secretly. And but I
didn't think that would add to the success possibility. Yeah. I agree.
What are your thoughts of because I just recently heard Logan Paul sorry,
Logan Paul, yeah.
He has a documentary coming out soon about, I guess he explored the Antarctic and at least to the edge.
No, he saw it was I watched the video he just put out, I mean, unless you're referring to something different, but he put out a video yesterday. It's a trailer video, so it's
Hmm.
2 minutes and 22 seconds long. And it's he basically went to the Flat Earth conference and stuff and like explored the topic, and it's like, and he's doing a little, a more because he doesn't put out trailers like ever or like very often that I saw. I don't follow him tightly. I don't really follow him at all, but yeah, so he's definitely drawing some attention to the video that he's going to post, which is going to be a longer semi-documentary on Flat Earth, and he goes to the Flat Earth conference, and it's definitely like the trailer's weird. If you watch it, you're kind of like, okay, he's like half being serious, and he leaves it very open, like, oh, maybe he becomes a Flat Earther, maybe he doesn't. It's kind of, you get that from it, and there's like a love interest involved, which is, you're sort of like, what? So he like get hooked up with some Flat Earth chick while he's there, kind of a thing, and like, so it's like, we'll see, like he's there's a lot of like, what, you believe in Flat Earth? If you know Logan Paul, he's very like, he's there for the attention and just for the views and stuff like that. So I wouldn't expect anything real out of it by any means. But it's a major. I mean, Logan Paul's got a lot of followers, man. He's got, man, what is it, 8 million subs, I think. So that's a lot, dude. And it's definitely a major. He's a very household name, especially with like younger generations and who are all into YouTube or otherwise have at least heard of him. And then at least be putting a documentary out there. It's going to draw attention to the topic at the very least.
This is where it gets hard, because it's nice to have people with that much following, that much of a following and things like that, but how much can we trust? Yeah. For example, you gear up with a lot of people and say it ends up being just kind of a substandard, like, popular channel, so maybe around 50,000 subs. But that's still a good enough amount to organize a big following, to get a big coordination, maybe, to get people who are really dedicated to go out and explore the Antarctic as well as they can. And then all of a sudden, someone like, say, Logan Paul or Joe Rogan or who any of these YouTube big names, they go, oh, we actually went to the Antarctic because everyone else were saying they were, and this is what we saw. And then it kind of detracts away from the entire thing. It's like, oh, some people might go, well, there's nothing there. They explored it. It's the same thing. Like if NASA did it, except they're not going to have NASA do it. They're not going to have SpaceX do it. They're going to want to have someone who has a popular following to do it and say, well, see, there's nothing there. We went,
That'll probably happen.
Yeah.
But all the same, right? It's like, it's the Flat Earth community that's going to be going, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Anyway.
It's the same concept. It doesn't matter how popular someone says that they're going. It has to be regular people like us to go and do it, because it's not about sending one person out there being the spokesperson, because that's how we got into this mess. The whole scientism thing. Oh, we have a spokesperson for science and globe Earth. If you don't have the credentials to match this guy, then you're not going to. So we're not going to take your word for it. We're going to take this spokesperson's word for it. So I think it really boils down to the least common denominators, which are just the average person, to go out there. And what's more motivating is to actually have someone out there who, we're not like super bodybuilders, we're not super in shape, we don't have a lot of money, we don't have a lot of following, but we're able to go out there and do it, and we could convince anybody out there to do it. It's like, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. So I think that's also a good thing to keep. It's
definitely a populist thing, and like, it's going to be, I mean, I talk about 100,000 subscribers, and dude, that's not that much. Like, that really means like a realistic following of what, like 5 or 10,000 who are actually following up on videos and stuff like that, and people who are actually going to get involved, right? Who are actually like, oh yeah, I'm young, I'm like, I'm strong enough, I have the time, I have the money, I have the resources, I'm motivated enough. It's going to be a pretty small number of people, I think. Even with 100,000 subscribers, it wouldn't be a big expedition. I really don't think, even with that many, me inviting anybody who's physically reasonably capable enough to try, that they're welcome to come. And I really think it's going to be still, I don't know, 100 people or something, right? Like, they would probably be committed enough to do it. So, I don't know. Like, and that's just day-to-day people, right? Those are people who are like, I'm into Flat Earth. I do believe it. I want to go find out for myself. I don't have much money, which I don't, dude. Like, I don't have much money or anything, but I am fit. I'm 32 years old and like super young enough and fit enough to be like, oh yeah, like I can give it a real shot, and I fully intend to. If and when or whatever, right? If I hit 100,000, then dude, yeah, I'll be giving it a go with whatever limited funds I got and credit
Yeah.
card space or whatever the hell. Like I'll be going all out for sure because
Yeah.
dang, it's be exciting.
Um, and what's good? I hope the younger generation wants to do it, because I think what's innate in just humans is the curiosity to explore. I mean, as kids, we always explore. Our imaginations go wild. I don't know about you, but I used to go out in the woods and just build like forts in the forest. Imagine, I'm on an adventure and I'm going to find this whatever, or I'm going to do this. And it's even though it's just a backyard, you're not going to find anything, but to actually go out and explore and expect to find something that you might maybe no one else found. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
look, if there's an Antarctic treaty where no one's supposed to go out there, no one's been out there then, right? So you could
What's
find
out
just
there?
about anything. And if you find something, just how how amazing would that be? Just for just humanity's sake. Hey, look, someone went out there to Antarctica, they found stuff. Maybe we should revisit this treaty that all these countries have, and let's go explore more.
It's definitely like a very, I really, it captures my imagination because when I think about flat Earth, I'm just like, oh man, there's so much that you can dive into and there's so many topics and they're interesting, but man, that's a time dump, right? Like that's you can spend a lot of time researching all the different people and opinions and thoughts. And I'm just like, man, like, but to have there be an actual way, there's really only one way in my mind that you can actually go out and test it, and really test it and not go on a freaking expedition, dude, to Antarctica and try to go across it. And like, that's like, man, if that doesn't capture your imagination, if you have a group of people being like, you cannot cross Antarctica. And I've gotten in some arguments with people who we made up after and everything, but I've gotten things and been like, oh, like, we know there's like round. I'm like, oh yeah, have you been across Antarctica? Have you gone across, flown or whatever? Have you gone across that continent? And it's obviously the answer is always no. And I'm like, yeah, exactly, dude. Like, because you can't, because it's impossible. I'm like, I have been to every single continent in the world, minus Australia, but I've been to every continent in the world, man. But I have not been to Antarctica. Why is that? Like, why is that, dude? Like, why? Why do you think that is? Like, why do planes not fly over that, that continent, right? Like, that's a whole topic to itself, right? Planes disappearing in the southern hemisphere and everything. But yeah, it's like, man, and I've gotten people like, I've talked to some people at my work and I'm like, and there's like, some younger, 25-year-olds and stuff. And I talk to them and I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to, yeah, I do think they're flat. Like they know that and stuff. And I'm like, chill about it. And I'm like, yeah, like, yeah, but what do you like do with that? I'm like, well, like there's really only one thing that I want to do, and that's go across Antarctica because it's impossible. I'm telling you, it's impossible. It's not what they say. It is impossible to do. What's up, dude? You want to come? Because I'm trying to go. And like they're like, yeah, like what do you mean? Hell yeah, like let's go explore that. And so it does capture people's imaginations and motivations because like, shoot, it's the last, other than the North Pole, right? The North Pole, it's like kind of, you can go across it and they can hide it and all of a sudden you get nothing out of it. But Antarctica, it's impossible. Like, right? It's impossible. You cannot go across it. So it's like, let's go find out what's out there. Like,
Yeah.
who's coming with me? Who's willing to really live, right? To really live. You only live once. Let's go do something big. Let's find out the shape of where we are. Like, and a lot of the motivation to kind of take it to another level is like, what are they hiding, right? Like this is all fun and games, it's exciting and it's very interesting and all this, but the reality of it is like, man, like the people running the world sure seem to be kind of messed up and evil and all that, or whoever it may be and whatever. But what are they hiding? Because it's probably some pretty nasty stuff. And if you go and find out that they're lying about the shape of the earth, you could really expose some real horrific stuff that could very well be going on. And that's really like, that's pretty motivating in itself. I'd argue because that's pretty could be very, very impactful. I think, possibly to a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the biggest lies that they kept going with. So obviously they're hiding something. And as far as exploration, like I always want to be an astronaut. I always want to explore space. But the
Same.
thing is, that's not going to happen in my lifetime. It's not going to happen in my kid's lifetime. You know
Nope.
what? I don't think it's going to happen in anyone's lifetime anymore. But
Nope.
look, we flew up. We were up there up in the 60s, late 90s. We were up on outer space, right? So was it 60, almost 70 years now, and no ordinary Joe can go out into outer space, like at least how they show it in movies or in NASA. But we can travel and explore the Earth. You
Yep.
know, anyone can go and explore any part of the Earth. The only thing that stops you is the control mechanisms, right? The governments, bankers, they're probably not going to fund it. Religions, I guess they don't really care as long as you keep paying their tithes, whatever. but there's always seems to be some form of controls. Like, why do you want to go there anyway? First, it's more like, hey, there's Disneyland. You could go to Hawaii. Why would you want to go anywhere cold first? And then it's more like, oh, we there's restrictions there. You're not allowed to go. If you want to do something, like you can go on this trip. It's a cruise. It costs like $6,000 for a
Yeah.
10-day
The money,
trip.
dude.
Yeah, it's like,
It's
how am I gonna
really
get six
expensive.
thousand dollars? Yeah,
It's
and
crazy expensive, dude. Flights to Antarctica are like 10 grand just to fly there. It's like crazy, dude.
yeah. Uh, so that's the monetary control. Is you can't get, it's hard to get past that just to even book
It is.
a trip, like like a restricted trip. Now you're getting into territory of, you're going to bypass the restrictions. And if you bypass those restrictions, you can probably get around the monetary control. You can find someone, maybe a flat earther who has a yacht, and is like, "Hey, I've got a yacht. I can probably fit like 5 people. You know, it's not a lot, but I sail around, like people who sail around the Bahamas, maybe like
Yeah.
the coast of maybe Argentina or something like that. So it's not that much out of the way to get to Antarctica as far as the maps look, as far as, you know, from Argentina all the way down to the Antarctic. You know, I'd say it'd be like a day trip, really.
Yeah, I do think along the same lines that like that the way that whoever comes with me is going to get to Antarctica is probably going to be like small vessels and like pitching guys a few bucks to get small vessels to go across to get a bunch of people across, or somebody with a big boat. You know, that I just see it being possibly like a boat situation. You know, where that's the way to get across that little gap there between the southern tip of South America there in Argentina to just hop over to Deception Island there, right? I don't know if you have Deception Island, but just to get across over there, it's like, who knows though, but I do see both being a possibility. Ideally, I just fly, just like just fly there, right? Like
Yeah.
just fly there and like and just bring your supplies and then just go, and there should be nobody stopping you. There should be no big deal, and like I'll apply for all the permits and everything, and if they deny me, I'm just gonna go anyway and let them turn me around. You know, that's all you can really do. Like, but where there's a will, there's a way. You know, and it's like just go, just go. And if they turn you around, if they turn me around, and there's no other sleeper cells around that aren't like going, and if we just get turned around. If that does happen, then
Mhm.
at the very least that brings a lot of attention to it. Why did all these people have their entire goal, spend all this money and time and effort just to go across this one continent, and they were turned around?
Yeah.
You know, it's like that really, that'll get some people wondering,
And
right?
it
And then I'm just gonna try it again. So
and it'd be interesting to see who turns you around. I have a feeling it would be more likely the U.S. Navy on their patrol ships.
pure, but yeah,
I've been in Navy. I somehow think that a lot of our practice uh, missions out in the seas, I think they were just patrol missions out near, like the Antarctic, maybe.
huh.
But I don't know. It's like, I look outside, I don't see anything. It's just pretty much all water. But of course, you can see a lot more with planes and radar and a whole bunch of other stuff. But man, it's just an eye opener. It's like, I can't believe we are in 2019. We're discussing what's out in the Antarctic or the magnetic North Pole, as far as just firsthand accounts. Like, we're
hmm
always having to need um some entity, some corporation, some government organization that goes out and comes back with the information. And most of the time, the
Yeah, it's like
information
who
that
they.
yeah, and the information that they bring back, it's sometimes it's just like written up, or it's like a diagram. It's like a computer generated diagram. It's like, couldn't you just give us a picture or a video?
Yeah,
I mean, what are
something
we
like,
paying you for?
dude, yeah, the crap that NASA comes back with, right, is like just ridiculous. You know, it's like people, it's ridiculous. Like, dude, how do you not have videos all over the place, live feeds left and right, just from the moon? Like, you should have a few cameras on the moon, like shooting videos, live streaming. You can hop through whenever you want. Like, you know, zoom in. I want to see that zoom in, right? I want to see do me a 360 panorama of a live video feed from the moon, which is not that shouldn't be that hard to do, you know, and do 360 and then zoom in on the Earth and zoom in on some person, and you know, like
Yeah,
that should be
that would,
fully doable.
like, besides the mission to Mars, I would love a live feed from the moon to the Earth, because the moon's always pointing to the Earth anyways. No matter what, we're gonna
Yeah.
see the
One
Earth.
camera will do.
And just, I mean, it would be a boon for just uh the people, the meteorologists, the people who plan the weather. It's like, you don't need Doppler radar anymore. You've got a camera. You can see the weather formations. I mean, it's so useful, and you'll be able to get more data on just if we are flying through space and spinning and all this other stuff. It's easily calculated. And plus, look, you know, even though NASA says they destroyed all the data, you can't get back to the moon anymore. Although they're saying they're going to Mars, but they can't get back to the moon. It's dumb. But I mean, they did it 6 out of 6 times back in the late 50s, early 60s,
late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah. Oh well, they had like orbiters out there and stuff like that, manned orbital missions. But in the late,
probably earlier in the 60s.
Yeah.
I'm not like an expert.
Yeah, I remember looking into it, but I just forget. It's like, I know it's all bunk anyway, so it's just like information that I don't need to keep. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, what, like, we take so many millions of pictures of beautiful scenic things, because we like taking pictures of like the beaches and forests. Yeah, it's like the Earth would be the most beautiful thing ever, but no pictures at all. But
it would be great. Would be great. You know, you look at the quality that you get from like the ISS, right? There's ISS live feed, right? Which I've seen, like, you know, we've all seen that, and like, that's just trash, man. It's like, what is this granulated nonsense that you're sending us? You know, like, take an iPhone out or whatever, like, you'll get 3 times the quality, and like, you know, they're just sitting there like, man, I don't know if you watch that live feed much, but man, that is like some just ridiculous stuff, dude. Their hands are always going in front of the camera, and you always get the same angle of the Earth, right? Where it's like just that little sliver, right? It's like, they're never zooming in. There's no zooming in, zooming out. It's just stagnant and just, horrific.
Zoom would be awesome if they could, even in the ISS, just zoom in. Is like, we're gonna pass the Space Needle in Seattle. It's like, how awesome is that? Millions would tune in. You know,
dude, live feed. Put the live feed on the top of the Space Needle, right, and be like, "There's a 1 minute delay or whatever," right? You know, and be like, "Here it is. Like, you're live on the ISS. They're zooming in on you from the sky. Like, you know, here it is." And they'll show the ISS and then zoom in on the Space Needle. You're waving. There's so many. The funny thing is, there's so many ways to fully prove without a doubt with just cameras that the Earth is round.
Yeah,
you know, there's so many ways,
but
we don't have that capability.
Yeah, they don't go for it either. And
surprise.
I like to ask anyone that's, especially like the Globers and who are people like excited about what NASA does and SpaceX is. So what's the latest scientific experiment that you heard that NASA was doing on the ISS? With
latest scientific experiment, man. The latest thing I heard out of NASA was that they're doing they just got like three women. It's the first 3 woman, solo woman. I think it's not the ISS that they're doing like a mission to the ISS, or maybe like being on the ISS or something. It's like a 3-woman thing. I don't know. That's the latest kind of thing. If you're referring to like, I guess you're referring to like, what tests are they doing up there? It's always the same test, right? They're doing tests of something. I don't know what, dude. Tests. They're just doing tests. They're scientists. What else do? They do tests. There's always just like a floating ball of water or something, right? That they're like, look,
I
Look
mean,
how this is
yeah,
floating.
they don't show just the actual test research that they're doing. They don't
Dude,
reveal it like any scientific journals or paperwork.
there's
But
nothing.
and then the videos that they show people in the ISS, they're not doing any experiments. They just play around with the
Floating around, doing the
yeah,
backflip,
yeah,
the hair standing up.
and that's it. And they just talk. It's like, gosh, give me just a day in the ISS, and I'm going to show you so much stuff that no one's ever seen done on the ISS. But
Dude,
I mean, seriously, anybody just send up a kid up there, and the kid's going to have so much stuff that they're going to be doing that the people on the ISS never do.
I know, I know.
Um,
Yeah, who knows if they're even up there on the like on the or like where they're how they're pulling it off, right? I mean, most likely it's just like this. They have like a facility actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, they have like some big old facility. Can't think of it off the top of my head, but they have a big facility where they can like fake ISS type of situation. It's so easy now, right? Like really with the capabilities of videography and putting green screens behind stuff and wires and everything, it's like it's pretty easy to fake about anything at this point. You know, you don't even have to go up in an airplane and do the whole zero gravity thing. You know, where you go up and down.
and it doesn't really have to be that good. People still believe in it, you know.
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah.
you point
It's like
any faults out there, like being like, oh, that's just a glitch in the transmission,
yeah.
or they'll have Elon Musk saying, you know, it's real because it looks so fake, you know, those types.
Oh
Of...
my god, yeah. Come on, come on, yeah. Go with that, dude. Did you see his last spaceship that went up just a couple days ago? He
No.
like he sends it up. I watched. I just happened to catch it, and like I saw it, and they were like the main thing I kind of like saw from it was like you know they re-land the ships now, right? That's like his big thing, like being green. He like shoots up the rocket and then he re-lands
Oh
from
yeah.
the rocket. So they were like at the start of the show, like I caught it like right before takeoff. They're like, oh, when we have the re-entering of the ship and the landing of the rocket, the sections of the rocket re-landing, we may lose the feed a little bit there because of transferring like whatever like crap they came up with. And I know why they did it too, because the last time they tried to re-land rockets, it was like they used, I believe they used like the same video feed, like the same exact video they took, and people looked at the video that they took and they were like, oh, they're like picking it apart and being like, this isn't real. And so they were like, shit, they saw that and they were like, oh, maybe this whole trying to film one of these things landing is not really, we shouldn't be messing with it because it's so technically hard to do that on a to mess with that on a computer screen. Is like when you're talking about making a rocket launch off and then making it playing it in reverse, but like that's pretty challenging to do. So anyway, when I watched that feed, and they what happened was like you're watching all this nonsense, the second stage, third stage, and then all of a sudden the rocket was just landed. It was just like there, and there was like a little bit of flame, and then the flame goes away. And it's like, oh hey, we have landing on the rocket. Like, dude, that was the entire. That's like the most interesting part of that whole takeoff, right? The whole feed is like, dude, show us the rocket re-landing. That's like the most exciting. You're re-landing rockets now from space. Let's see that, dude. Like, and that's the one thing that they didn't show. you're like, man, that was, what are you doing? Like, that's the whole, why would you not show that? It's here on Earth. There's no feed problem. Like, yeah. It's right here. Just show it.
It's, I don't know, man. It's so hilarious and sad at the same time when you think about it. And I know it doesn't affect our day-to-day lives, but it does affect our trust factor. It's like we know we're, and the same thing when I was talking with Slick James Johnson. It's like we have to live with this system. We're slaves to it. The monetary system, the religious system, the governmental system. It's something that we just have to do. Otherwise, we get screwed over royally. And it's not just them doing it. It's just the peers, our peers, the people who we're just waiting for to wake up and stuff like that. They're the ones who are just controlling us in the name of these institutions. And
yeah, it's definitely, I think like one problem is like, one challenge is like, when I watch that rocket launch and stuff like that, and I'm not going into work talking to people about it and stuff or anything, but like I work with like, there's a bunch of people in the area, there's cooks, there's a lot of cooks around where I work, and like I hear them all talking about, oh man, you hear that, you see that new like SpaceX rocket launch that went up at this speed and this altitude, and it was crazy what they did, and they landed, and I'm just sitting there like, I don't want to sit here and be like, yo, you're bullshit, dude. Like, that didn't happen. You're an idiot, man. Like, it's like, so it's kind of tough because it leaves you out of conversations. You're like, you don't want to interject and be like, the guy naysaying everybody and being like, you're nonsense. But like, so you're not going to join in and be like, yeah, that was awesome or something either. So it does, puts you in a socially awkward to not, there's really nothing you can say without looking like a big.
And if you say something negative, next time someone talks about it, they see you coming and they're gonna be like, hey, did you see that game? That basketball game is like, they don't want to talk with that subject matter with you around.
Yep. There's a lot to it. You really have to step carefully. So like, but it's a fun challenge too, because it's like, if you really have to be on your game to pull off to be socially accepted and believe something like flat Earth, you really have to kind of watch when the topic comes up and how you're approaching it, making sure to be really aware of people's reactions and feelings, not being overly aggressive or stuff like that.
One of the things I like doing is just, people get excited with space because they think they can go up there. And it sucks being the person to disappoint them that they're not going to be up there. But they get so serious that, we're going to go to Mars one day. They're having I think they mentioned like a reality show like a decade ago saying you could win a chance to go to Mars or something.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, and I don't know what happened to that. I think it just got dropped. And it's like, I'll make a bet with anybody who thinks they're going to go up to space in their lifetime.
Not going to happen.
However much money you want to bet, let's wager. Name the years, 10, 15, 20 years. I'll be alive by then. I'll accrue interest on that bet. But it's people think they're going to go up to space. I thought I could go up to space because I was like, dude, it's in the 90s, 2000s. We went to the moon 50 years ago. Our technology is going to be better. We're already thinking of going to Mars. It's like, where do we sign up? There's nowhere to sign up. You have to have millions of dollars to take a trip out there. The only thing that I've heard of is maybe a mention of sending a colony to Mars. It's a one-way trip, and they won't have another colony for like another 20 or 30 years. But I think it's just like a death sentence. They just send them out to die somewhere, and then they just go, hey, look, we got 200,000 people flying on a ship to Mars. You can't hear from them again because the transmission went down over the radiation belt, and so we'll know more in our next expedition, 20, 30 years. So who wants to sign up to go and live on Mars?
Who else wants to go? We'll take your money here, and the launch site is out in the forest here.
That's gonna be the part where I'm gonna be like, no, when our kids are wanting to go on that Mars colony ship, it's like, it's a trap. It's a trap. All I could think about is Star Wars. It's a trap. You're gonna. Yeah. It's a one-way trip. I don't know what they do to the bodies of the people who go on, but
they're putting out that Mars the Mars colony right now, right? It's like every 2 years or something they're sending out another like 2 huge rockets to set up another. There's like a whole graphic on it, right? That Elon Musk put out. Like, I don't know, you probably saw that, right? Like every 2 years, right? They have another like launch or something.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how they're going to be faking that. I mean, that's going to be funny to watch, right? They're going to, who knows what they're going to, they're probably going to build a base out in somewhere like Greenland, right? Or something like that. And just like, here's Mars. Again, like,
yeah,
already did that.
I think they're going to probably come up with like, how we see in the sci-fi movies where you're encased, you're like in hibernation, whatever that thing is called. And so people are going like, oh, okay, I'll just hibernate for our trip to space. And all it is just like a death coffin. You just they put you in there. They poison you. You die, and then they just bury you somewhere. And it's like, we've got all these people in these cryostasis chambers ready to wake up when they're on Mars.
They just put them in a coffin, give them some sleeping medication, and bury them. Right? Yeah, you're gonna go to sleep now. Like, you'll wake up at Mars. They wake up and they're in a Kill Bill situation, trying to fucking hit their way out of the coffin.
I mean, it's funny in just a sick way now, but
Like,
it's gonna happen, right?
I can see it.
We can see it, and that's just like, oh my goodness, this is just horrible. I mean, to even think
Funny.
that, but I don't know. It's
It's gonna be interesting to see like what they kind of keep coming out with, right? Because they have all these, they're like getting pushed against the wall right now, right? Where there's like so many doubters out there, and there's a lot of people, like there's a lot of people who don't think we went to the moon now as well. Like that
yeah,
seems to be a growing thing as well on Earth, you know. There's more people that disbelieve in the moon landing, and in 9/11 is even more, right? You'll get even more being like that was nonsense. But it's interesting. They keep getting pushed against the wall pressure, and so a lot of heat, you know. So they're coming out with stuff more and more, right? Big old plans like, oh no, yeah, we know we haven't been to the moon in 50 years. But let's see what we're working on now. Like, just look, like we're going to Mars, right? And like we're this and that. So it's we're getting to them because they keep coming out with more and more things to make sure everybody's convinced and disbelieving or in believing, they're thing. Because that movie, right? It was called or anything, but I heard they came out with a movie that was just the moon landings. It was just a bunch of real video from back in the 60s and 70s when they went to the moon and everything like that. And I heard people who saw it and stuff, and stuff. So it's like you can tell they're, even though they don't have any new content, they just made it seem cooler and people liked it because it was authentic, and stuff like that. So they're like, no, really, the moon landing really was real. Like, look, it keeps, we're going to keep showing you the same footage and of this just trash, and we're going to make sure that you really believe it because we're showing it in a way that's popularly accepted, in the movie theaters and very, scientists saying it's real and stuff like that. But it's interesting, the more pressure they get, they're going to keep coming out with more nonsense, and it's going to be funny to see what they continue to put out.
yeah. Uh, I I think that is true. They have to up the ante. Like people
Yeah.
are saying, like new generation doesn't believe we went to the moon. They look at the old videotapes, like man, that ain't the moon, and they're questioning things. So they're gonna have to have like a planned
Better
landing on the Mars and walking around, and you know the gravity and stuff like that. They'll mess around with, and but it'll be something like, I wonder if it's just gonna be like the same thing as the Cold War buildup. It's with U.S. and Russia relations right now. It's like, okay, instead of having World War, we'll do another space race. We'll go see who can be the first person to land on Mars, and then they'll fake it, and then they'll realize, oh, the technology that we used to land on Mars was just one off thing. We're gonna have to build it back up again. It's gonna take 25 to 30 years, but instead of landing on Mars, we have a planned landing on like Jupiter or something like that.
Yeah, you're right, dude. And they drop it. They're like, we're going to Mars in 5 years, but really it takes like 20 years, 30 years for them to actually do it, right? Like they always draw it out as long as possible, just like putting it off.
Yeah. Oh,
Dude, yeah, I know it's ridiculous, dude. I'm a little bit like getting a little off topic here, but like I was in Sacramento and they like talking about getting heat and everything, right? Is Steph Curry? He came and played a basketball game in Sacramento, and it was the first game he played after he came out and said Moonlight Rogan or where it was. But because Steph Curry came out, and I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So the first game after that, he played in one arena here, the Kings, and they put on the big screen when they announced Steph Curry. They put on the big screen a video of the moon landings, and like everybody was like, heckling, right, just heckling the shit out of them, and that was pretty interesting. You're like, yeah, there they are. Like they came out that quick, and it's interesting when it hits home like that, right? Like I literally work right across the street from the Golden One. I work at this like place that's like it's on the third floor, and you can look in the Sacramento Kings like arena. So it's like it's right there, and like they come out and they're like heckling, making sure everybody knows what happens when you come out and speak against the status quo. You speak against saying we didn't go to the moon. Everybody's gonna rag you in public venue. You're gonna get heckled, and tomatoes thrown at you and stuff. And that was pretty wild to see that.
Yeah. That's the thing is like I ask people who think like this is for, I don't know, monetary gain or for just personal fame or something. It's like, be a flat earther for one day. See what it's like. You know,
Yeah.
once you go flat, you don't go back. And if it was so easy to get people back into globe Earth model, you know, it should be, right. I mean, you go back to the societal norms. People don't look at you funny. They don't think you're an idiot or a crazy person, and it's like, oh, all is normal now. You're back. You're good. It's like, I don't know. It, I haven't found a good way to
There's
explain.
plenty of there's there's plenty of information that'll get you to be a flat earther. You know, there's like, and where it's like you just can't get around it. But then when you continue to research the topic and you look at the globe arguments and stuff like that, and there's just nothing there that's going to pull you over. You know, that's the thing. Like, is just because the truth's not there. There's nothing convincing, right? There's you talk to people like, oh, the pictures and the videos, and that's it, right? That's all they have is pictures and videos. And but my response is every time I hear that, which is very common, right? My response has now become like, well, you know, have you seen Interstellar? You know, have you seen Gravity? Like,
Yeah,
have you seen the movie? Because that shit looks really real, doesn't it? You know, like that looks real, and so that's how this isn't that crazy, right? Like that looks real, and they're like, yeah, I'm like, well, there you go, you know, like so it comes up a lot.
yeah. And I'm starting to just question what we're finding underwater. Like when James Cameron goes underwater in the deep ocean dives, like maybe there's even more down there than we think. And you know, they tell us, oh, we went down this far, we went in this area. We really don't know that. And they just say, well, this is all we found. And so maybe we won't go looking for there. They go, oh, you have to go that far down deep, and we're only going to find this type of life. Everywhere else is just kind of dead. But there's probably like underwater civilizations, and it's probably not even that deep. It's probably like the deepest ocean might be, um, I don't know, the sonar. I don't know. I've never. The thing is, that's the thing. I've never really been on a like. I've been in the Navy, but it's not like I could look at the sonar and see how far down deep we are and all the structures. We could see when we're gonna land, when we're gonna go close to the shore and navigate through the channels, but not like the actual ocean, deep ocean. It's like how far deep is the deepest area of the
Yeah,
ocean, and there's absolutely no structures they can find down there. I mean, of all the wars we've had, and a lot of the wars in the last couple of centuries were all naval battles and just sunken ships. We're not going to find just like armada of just sunken ships and reefs being built off of these sunken ships and things like that. And I don't know. I think there's a lot out there, even in the oceans, that we're probably hidden from, because they'll just go out and show us in these nature documentaries, just like in the space documentaries. And the one thing that you do notice in all these nature documentaries, they'll always show the globe Earth. They'll also show
oh yeah,
certain portions of the like the oceans and the Earth, just giving you like as
something curved.
yeah, a panoramic view, and it's gonna be curved. And then they'll show you another scene. It's like, oh, they just didn't bother to bring their fish islands, so it's flat. So sometimes it's curved, sometimes it's flat. And but they do that
Yeah,
with the nature documentaries, because I'm a big nature documentary person. So it's hard to,
yeah. No, I noticed that with nature documentaries.
yeah,
They definitely always plant some stuff in there where they're like, oh, background here, a little subliminal message reaffirming your belief in the globe. You know, it is no big deal. Like FYI, like, yeah.
yeah. And raising kids, it's hard because I'm watching it with my kid, and I kind of have to remind her that's not really Earth. It's not a it's not a globe. It's not a globe. It's flat, but you know they're going to show you it's a globe. But that's more of like later. I think I might.
That's gonna be really challenging.
Yeah,
I was just saying that's gonna be like having kids, because they got to go to school, like they got to go to school and deal with. And if they're telling their friends and stuff that they're flat, that's gonna be a very tough situation to be in. That puts you in a very tough situation, as a parent. You're like, man, that's challenging. You gotta educate them fully. You don't want them to grow up in a lie just to be accepted, obviously.
mm-hmm.
But at the same time, right, they need to be accepted socially, So like they have to have a lot of tact and information to be able to talk around the subject possibly, and it could be a challenging way to grow up, and potentially being ridiculed for having a parent that's earth they're going to for that probably as well. So it's challenging, definitely challenging.
Yeah. Oh man, Nathan Oakley has his idea of just he's not gonna teach the just say like it's a flat Earth or whatever. I think he said he was just gonna just teach the kid to think critically and have them make up their own decision whether they think the globe is round or like a globe, Earth is a globe, or if it's flat or if there's like a firmament dome, whatever. And I think that's a good approach. It's like
Yep.
probably
That's
ask
the
my
best
daughters
approach.
like, what do you think and why do you think so, and how would you find out? Right.
Yeah, it's the best approach, but in the end, right, like it's hard to not let your opinion kind of leak through, right? You try your best, and I agree that you should, and I'm sure you do an admirable job of it. But like it's still tough to not, to really dance around the topic a little bit, and like not let your opinion sort of come out, and then eventually they're going to ask, right? Like what shape do you think it is, and then at that point the game's over, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's yeah, but I do think that's the best approach.
Okay, so your family members, because I don't know if you're still close with your family or not, but if you get
Yeah,
back
yeah,
together,
yeah.
do they talk to you about flat Earth and your thoughts, and do they try to sway you back and saying, "Hey, look, we just landed a in the dark side of the moon. China did, so how does that happen on your flat Earth, no space?" Does it come up? Do they shy away from
Yeah.
it?
Well, they know my opinion on it, and I approach them the same way. I will talk about it, but I don't on it too hard. More than a normal person, I'll talk about it and stuff. But the most challenging one out of my family, which I have one full brother, and then both my parents are still alive. But so my brother is the most challenging because I have one full brother, and he's my age about, and he is fully indoctrinated. Not basically fully indoctrinated. He's a doctor. He's a psychiatrist, and he lives in San Francisco, a couple hours away, and he's really smart. Obviously, whatever. He's a doctor, and he's doing really well as a doctor as well, and everything. But he has a NASA shirt that he wears regularly, and so he was a big Star Trek person, Star
Yeah.
Trek, and I grew up watching Star Trek because he was so into it. So he's very into space being real and being amazing. And a year ago, even though I believed in flat Earth, I still bought him books on Mars, for like a Mars fiction novel. I still bought him that. I really try to really hold that olive branch, and unfortunately doesn't like to talk about it very much because it's just like he's just like thinks so much the other way that he hates even hearing it or talking about it. He thinks it's just like a crazy idea, So it's like I really can't He's always starting to his credit. The last time I saw him, which was a couple months ago, it was actually Christmas, right? He came out for Christmas to Sacramento, and I was like, it's Christmas. It could be an interesting, to sort of touch on the North Pole because that's where supposedly Santa lives. Why don't we let's talk about that a little bit, just for fun, just nothing serious, just sort of what's the lore around it and that kind of thing. And we had a good little conversation about it, and he allowed me to talk about it for maybe 15, 20 minutes. So he's starting a conversation about it, which is cool. And then my mom and dad, they're both a little different. My mom just kind of will just go and that's just kind of very, very easy to talk about it with her, and she definitely entertains the idea and stuff, which which is fun. And my dad is more he watches and so that's he definitely doesn't think there's flat or anything, but it's still fun to talk about him with it, and he definitely doesn't think too seriously about it or anything. And he's getting more and more open-minded, honestly, and is older. My dad's 75 years old.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the older he gets, the more he's kind of willing to entertain more abstract ideas, and I've always entertained them and stuff. But so he's it's fun. It's fun. I have a nice situation with talking to him. My half brother, my one other family member is, basically, I have a nephew as well. But my half brother, he's fully, he'll totally entertain it, but he has his own sort of beliefs, and he's more of the hippie type and stuff, and not hippie, but kind of hippie. He definitely thinks like, he's like a farmer, and so he likes thinks the sun is sort of like an undervalued, thing, and he's willing to entertain it. That's a very easy conversation with him, sort of, yeah. So the biggest challenge is my brother, my full brother, the doctor.
Yeah, I think the most challenging aspect that the relatives or people that know us really well, what they seem to forget is that we're just not. It's not like we're against the entire concept of outer space. We're big sci-fi space opera fans. Star Wars, Star Trek. You mentioned Gattaca. I mean, that's one of my favorite movies. Gattaca is another space sci-fi movie. Like, my favorite TV shows are like Futurama, Firefly. Like, one of my newest favorite shows, I can't wait for season 4, is the where's the book? The what's that? By James S.A. Corey. Gosh, I can't remember the name right now. Hold on, let me double check.
Sure. I definitely grew up watching a lot of space stuff, and I was pretty into it.
What is it? Battlestar Galactica, the old one and the new.
Battlestar Galactica, yeah.
The Expanse. The Expanse is the movie, the TV series I was talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, we're outer space science movie buffs, book buffs, whatever, and it's like we wanted space to be as real as anybody else. Yep. We just looked into it a little bit more, and we're disappointed because it is science fiction. It is fiction to the fullest, and it's disappointing because I would love to be out there like
floating around, man.
Yeah, like Mal on Firefly, captive my own ship, flying, out and just planet to planet, on my own dime, odd job here and there, but just free to explore. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, but that's never gonna happen. And why isn't it ever gonna happen? For government or technology, or maybe it just doesn't exist at all. So
yeah, I used to like, my line used to be like, which I think was very interesting bit of fiction, is classic astronomy thinks like, so I always say was like, oh, what does the moon revolve around? Like, oh, and they're like, the Earth. I'm like, yeah, what does the Earth revolve around? The sun. What does the sun revolve around? And that always stumps people because they're like, well, what? Like, and like they know some stuff. They'll be like, the galaxy, right? The galaxy doesn't revolve around what's the center point? Like, what's it revolving around? Which they'll say that like normal whatever is at the center of it is a supermassive black hole, is the technical term. There's the Milky Way is the second biggest Milky Way, or second biggest galaxy out of 52 galaxies that are in Andromeda is really close, and that's the only galaxy that's bigger than the Milky Way galaxy out of the 50, and it's on a collision course for the Milky Way galaxy. It's supposed to be very close by, like relatively speaking, talking about billions of years, but relative to the other galaxies. And so yeah, dude, I know about space, and I thought it was very interesting. I was like, wow, that's happening. That's wonderful. How interesting. And of course, when you keep researching space and everything, you end up like, oh, okay, oh no, that's real. Got it.
Yeah. And especially just debunking, trying to debunk the flat earthers. It's like, oh, this is going to be easy. It's like I'll just refer to science, and then you go to science. It's like, hey, wait, something's wrong here. It's
Yeah,
like,
why isn't this adding up?
yeah, and
Yeah,
yeah, it's it makes us actually better. I think it's good. It's like a course correction. We're actually applying science the way it should be applied, and we're not invoking science unless we know we're invoking science. It's like when I talk about North Pole, magnetic North Pole, and I talk about Antarctica, I don't invoke science. I'm saying, hey, um, the government, the ones who are lying, NASA, they're all saying nothing's there, or there's nothing spectacular about it. They show us the pictures, the whatever. So I don't have any reason to trust them, and
no,
so all it takes is, and if there really is nothing there, why do they care about us going to explore? You
yeah,
know, they care because they don't want us finding out something that they're hiding. But people don't think that way. They think, oh, you're delusional. And again, the ad hominem attacks. They don't think about the situation how we're thinking about it. They're just like, you're suffering from this. Here, look, here's this webpage. This is what you're suffering from. Go find yourself a cure. It's like,
yeah.
oh,
It's
thanks a
true.
lot.
That's why I try to ground it, with that. I really like the Antarctica thing because it's very grounding. It's like that's the one thing. It's like, dude, who cares whether it's true or not? I don't think it is. I just want to go find out. Why is this a problem? Like, support me. Support me in my revelation to myself that it's actually a globe. Why don't you help me to realize that it's a globe by just sending me across the continent, which should be a very simple thing, right? I've gone across all the continents, just want to go across one. So I feel like that really like kind of grounds people. Like, well, yeah, I mean, like, have you gone across? I'm like, no, of course not. It's expensive and all this. I'm like, yeah, which is kind of weird, right? Like, but yeah, just trying to go across. I don't know. It's nice to have very grounding, very solid arguments and very concise. That's like always important with like when you start talking about the topic. Like, have nice, good, get to it, have that impact.
And same thing. I think a lot of flat earthers who listen to the documentaries is with the Antarctic Treaty and stuff with Admiral Byrd, what he witnessed out there. And do you trust? I mean, he's an admiral. He got the Medal of Honor. Do we trust him or do we not trust him? And if we trust him, then he says there's a continent not filled with ice that's as large as the United States or North America or whatever. So are you saying he's a liar? Are you saying that an admiral in the United States Navy who got the Medal of Honor is a liar? Or are you going to take his word for it? Let's take his word for it. Okay, now let's take his word for it. Let's go. There's an Antarctic treaty. Why aren't there corporations utilizing all those resources that are available there? There's no national parks or monuments that are protected. There's just treaties. You know, Corporations should just be able to go out there and go ahead and drill for oil to your heart's content in the Antarctic. Don't do it in the Yellowstone National Park. There you go.
Yeah, I know. They have that. They're weird. It's such a weird thing, Antarctica, right? They're like, don't come here. You can't touch it. It's all a reserve. The whole continent is a peaceful reserve, economic reserve, environmental. Like, don't touch anything. It's like, well, shit, man. Like, why don't you go drill down there and leave all these other nice, beautiful, lush places alone? Like, leave our oceans alone and go. If you have a spill in Antarctica in the middle of the continent, then whatever, right? Like, yeah, where's it gonna go? It's not gonna mess up anything. There's nothing to mess up. But yeah, I looked at because some people bring up, like people have done it before, right? You'll hear that a lot. Like, oh, people, don't you know somebody who's done that? Like even recently, and like I've gotten a couple of comments like that. You can see them on my video. But this guy's like, oh, this so and so did it recently. Look, here's a link, and I like looked it up and I like researched it a little bit, and I saw their path that they took, and the path that they thing like going across the continent, man. It was like a 90-degree turn. It was like straight line, and then they hit the supposed South Pole, and then they just beeline it back to shore, man. Like it's like a 90-degree
angle. We expect if they cross a continent, it's just straight across. This is where the path they took. They went like that.
Dude, it's like it goes across, they hit the South Pole, and then it looks like that. It goes right back up, and you're like, dude.
I saw
That's
the
not
same
going
path.
across anything.
Yeah.
And I kept looking into that, and I was looking up like, oh, like who all has crossed the continent of Antarctica? Who's the first to do it? Who did it? What path did they take? And I found more than one example where every time they do the same thing. And like I could show you the link, so like you can look up, like it's very easy to find. They always do the same thing, it's the
Yeah.
same path every
It's like
time.
saying I crossed the United States by saying I crossed from Oregon to New Mexico. I crossed the
Pretty
United
much.
States. It's like,
Yeah, it's
no.
really like it's like going from like the Bay Area, Oregon, right? You go Oregon to right where you are. You hit Nebraska, and then you head straight south to Texas, and you go to the Gulf of Mexico, and you're like, oh, there it is. Like went all the way across the continent. You're like, no, man, you went halfway, and then you turned the completely different direction. Like, when I
Yeah.
talk about crossing Antarctica in a straight line, people are like, oh, how are you going to go in an exact straight line? I'm like, just close. Like, I just want to go close to a straight line.
But here's the argument against. It's like it's not like anyone's gonna verify the track that they went over the Antarctic anyways. So why wouldn't they just say I just crossed from one straight line to the other? It's not like anyone could verify it and say no, you didn't. You went this route. It's like, but
That's true.
why would they why would they fake? I mean, why wouldn't they
You're
just
right.
fake
Like, why
saying
not
they
just
went
lie?
across the entire thing?
That's the thing, right? It's like even if it showed that they went across in a straight line, I'd just like call BS, right?
Yeah.
But they don't even do that. They still show on a map. Every example I've looked up shows on a map them hitting the South Pole and then just a 90-degree angle from there. It's crazy, dude. It's like, why you guys are sloppy? Like, straighten out your line, man. Like, get your lie correct. Like tripping over yourself.
Yeah. Sometimes I just wonder is like now this is getting deep. This is like deep matrix crazy simulation stuff. I mean, this is conspiracy theory territory. Even flat earthers don't really want to go down. And what if all these it seems like whatever we look into, if you really look at it in detail, it's easy to figure out it's they're lying, they're hiding something, they're but it's enough where if you look into it, you can catch it. Someone always catches it. It's like, are they not smart enough to just cover every track? Why do they always have this little one piece where they can anyone who really looks into it can scrutinize and say this is probably fake or it's bunk or they're lying or it's like not quite all the way true. It's like, why do they always leave these little breadcrumbs where it just doesn't add up? I mean, obviously they're smart enough that they've kept this game going for centuries, but why even do that? I mean, they're smart enough by now to probably have like a think tank saying, "Hey, this is what we're gonna lie to the public about. You guys want to glance it over?" I'm pretty sure they do that. It's like, "Hey, someone might catch this." It's like, okay, good.
Yeah.
I mean, is it like software development where it's like, oh, we know that there's bugs, but it's too it's not cost effective to fix them. It's it's let's just release it and we'll fix it in like the next version. But
yeah, I know what you're saying. I mean, it could be like with a specific example of like crossing Antarctica. It's like maybe, I mean, when they should have used just as a plant, right? They should have used somebody in on it and a plant and then just lie about it. They had somebody real actually make the journey, somebody with credibility probably in the continent crossing industry, like, or whatever, what I'm saying? Like somebody with credibility to have him do it, and then he knows what path he took. So they can't lie to him. So they have to publish it as it was, as it exactly was. So they couldn't lie about it. That's kind of maybe where they caught themselves. Like, oh, we'll just have somebody legit do it and it'll be fine. But they're like, oh no, we do have to actually probably put the actual path. Like, oh no, like, okay, we're kind of caught right now. Let's just go ahead and do that, and nobody's gonna ask me questions anyway. It'll get buried quick anyway, and whatever, no big deal.
Yeah, it's
but leaving those breadcrumbs, it's like you do wonder whether the breadcrumbs are intentional at times, and I don't think they are, but like, do you want us to figure this out? Because you're getting kind of sloppy about it. Like, yeah.
Who knows? Maybe, I don't know what it is. Maybe there's people on the inside who's like, I know I'm part of, they're like the spies for like people like us. They want people to wake up. So they're in it. They go, let's tweak this. So maybe someone will find this info and know it's not true. so they could keep looking into it. Maybe they'll wake up. Maybe that's the best way to wake people up, is just people, because all it takes is people just really looking into it. Whatever it is, just look into it, do your own research. And that's like the motto from every conspiracy theorist, flat earther, whatever it is, or basically official narrative debunker, whatever you want to call it. Is always do your research for yourself. So don't rely on anyone else's research. You can look at their research, maybe look at someone else's research, but research into every aspect. Come down with your own conclusion. And you're gonna find other people with that same conclusion, and then it's finding those people, how they came to it. That's why I love, one of the things I wanted to keep doing is connect the dots. We do our own research and then connect the thoughts. So you connected the dots. I want to find out how you got to the situation where you are now. Just, is it the same path I took? I know it's similar, but it's not going to be exactly the same. It's going to have different catalysts towards awakening. It's going to be like, you're definitely a flat earther for a year and a half. You definitely looked into you've been awake longer than I have. I'm a relative newcomer to all this.
We all are. We all are. A year and a half is nothing, Like it felt like yesterday I figured it out, Yeah. But I've definitely looked into a number of the topics on it, but there's so much, there's so much out there that's like crazy. You could really be like a highly qualified expert on the topic. Like there's so much to know. Yeah. But yeah, we do all have our own path of figuring it out. You do have to. Anytime you're going to change your opinion on something, especially major, you do have to discover it yourself. You're always going to have to discover it yourself. But the whole you gotta research, and that's a pure thing to say, and nothing wrong with that. But I have found that, and that's totally accurate. You need to do your own research. But usually, what people will hear when you say that is generally, hey, go YouTube a bunch of flat Earth videos. You know what I mean? That's kind of, I usually don't say that to people. I try to stay away from it. There's a very a catchphrasey thing, just do your own research, and then they're like, oh yeah, you want me to go spend 10 hours on YouTube looking at these nonsense videos and that kind of thing. And I'm like, I do try to use just a different phrase, is all I'm saying. I try to use a different phrase instead of do your own research. I'm just kind of look into it for yourself, man. See what you know what I mean? I just use different words because I felt like I kind of get that feeling on it. Just kind of a side note, but you do need to do your own
research. Yeah. And I always love talking to other people about it, and they've got their opinions on it, and I go, that's cool. What research have you done? Go, well, I didn't do any research. It's okay, so I did a lot of research on it, and I could point you out a couple of things, but they don't want to hear it. It's I don't want to do the research on it. It's really, it's disappointing.
Well, then you can't really talk about it then with me if you're not going to at least spend a little time looking at it,
Yeah, and it's people who might, even people who I'll help with computers, and they go, hey, there's this email, they're saying they're from here and that I should click on it, and I was like, no, not to click on it, right? They go, yeah, I know, but I just thought I'd tell you about it. It's don't even tell me about it, just delete it, you know better, right? But and for me, it's just, it's they know it's something bad will happen. They don't know exactly what. They don't understand how viruses and worms and Trojans and all this other stuff works. But I could explain it to them, but it goes over their head. So they just kind of have to take my word for it, not to do it, and they understand it because I have to go and clean it up. And so it's kind of like that. It's I'm the authority for them, the gatekeeper. They ask me if they should do this, and I tell them no, and I give them the technical reasons, but they just know enough to trust me. So
yeah,
it's just humans. It's just the natural. I wouldn't say it's natural. It's just it's easier to just trust someone and take their word for it. I've had people I'm big in computers, So like
Right.
people's like,
Quality engineer it.
yeah, or just building them. It's like, hey, I
Oh
want to
yeah.
upgrade my computer. I want to just work on video editing, and should I get this graphics card? I go, well, if you're editing videos, you can do it hardware based. That means you need to upgrade your CPU. If you want to do it through software based, then you might want to utilize the graphics card. And so, what software editing tools do you use? Like, I use the YouTube one. It's like, well, we're using the YouTube editor. You're using it the YouTube's editing cloud, so you don't need to upgrade your computer. So there's so many things I need to tell them about it. But then if they go to the forums, people want to build them a computer, and he goes, hey, they go, I want to upgrade my computer for video editing. What graphics card should I get? People point them out. Oh, you should get this video graphics card. It's $700 and it's the best one. So, but then they'll get it and they don't need it at all because they're not even using. They're using a cloud video editor, and so it doesn't even matter what they use.
Right.
And but they won't
Right.
know that. And the thing is, they won't take my word for it because they don't know me. But I'm always asking them questions, and the more I ask them questions, and the more they don't know, then the more I have to explain to them why it matters. And it's frustrating, but I think just the compulsion is just kind of someone gets their source, they hear someone speak it, and I think what they do is they see a YouTube video of someone building their own computer. They got 1 million subs, they got a lot of people watching it, and they go, if you want to upgrade your video editing capability, you want this graphics card, and people will buy it. And they're probably sponsored by AMD or Nvidia and getting free products, but it's not really at the best interest for the person that wants to upgrade. And I don't know if it's the capitalistic model or whatever, but people are different.
It's a very I feel like it's like a group think situation, right? Where it's like, generally if you do what everybody else is doing, then you're going to get along just fine in life like everybody else. You know what I mean? And that does take you, along. It will. There's benefits to that as well. Like to doing like somebody's like, oh, this part on your car is not easily replaced. I honestly wouldn't do it. And you're like, okay, like I don't know that much about cars. I'll probably go that route. And it saves you from maybe hours and hours looking into all the stuff that that you lost all this time and all this stuff. So there is some benefits, but there's good as well. All the trapdoors of buying the wrong stuff and then following groupthink off a bridge. So yeah, it's interesting. Computers is a whole other. At some point in time, I do want to talk to you about like computers and the like, because I'm getting into technology myself. I want to get into it, because it really is a whole topic. But it would be interesting to talk to you about some technology things, at some point.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm here. I like talking about it, so it's pretty easy to get my help. But yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people, what they do in the forums is they ask a lot of people, and what they do is they don't really take an individual's account. It's like a consensus. It's like, oh, more people told me I should get this graphics card, so I'll get this graphics card. That's it. End of story. It's group consensus think, and it doesn't really matter to them. It's like, okay, more people say I should do this, so I'll do this. And then it's like the experts out there like me are like, and I don't want to say I'm an expert. I understand it more than most people who are just replying saying, oh, just get this graphics card. It's like, all you're doing is video editing. You don't need a gaming graphics card. And what's your software rendering? It's what software are you using? And then so it kills me. But see, that we all come from a different aspect. Like for me, I came from the information technology space to get to where I am now. You're in the political. I'm
not even in it. I have the degree, dude.
Yeah,
I have the degree, and I live in. Go on.
I was just gonna ask, when were you thrown off by politics, or knowing that maybe politics isn't going to be the answer to our problems in society, in the world?
Yeah. really was like research. You find out that money runs everything. You know, when you study politics, like, oh, okay, it's just money. Like your money's just making all the decisions, and that's the only way anything's going to get done. And all the politicians are just pawns. You're like, okay, well, position I'm just not going to get anywhere. Like that is completely pointless. So that was kind of where that was it. You know, yeah. I live here in Sacramento, and I did. What's up?
I was gonna say, like, I figured you'd probably be more liberal living in Sacramento than the conservative. Like, did you go from like one political ideology to another, or did you just go one and go, oh, they're all bad, and just like, were there phases, or is it just, this is all bunk anyways? I'm like, how did it happen? Because people are still really stuck in the political ideological arena.
Yeah. Yes. Which, not to say there's anything wrong with, looking into politics and everything. Like, I am of the same opinion of you, where it's like, I just, why even bother looking into it? And I know, like, so I'm of that as well. But a lot of people, they look into it and try to figure out what's going on. And there's some credibility there and stuff. But for myself, I was pretty much, I would say I was somewhat liberal leaning, I suppose, socially, but maybe more conservative fiscally, right? Which everyone likes to think they're conservative fiscally, right? You're responsible then. but no, it was like, it was just, I just went to college, dude, and I just kind of kept researching myself, and I kept being like, okay, it really just comes to be like money running everything. It's just, that's it. Why bother? Everything else they just can get around, like money will find a way to make a law happen. No problem. Like, for instance, like the Real ID. I don't know if I'm sure you're aware of the Real ID, and which I just applied for like this week, but research project on them. I did a whole, like, on the Real ID Act of 2005 is what it was called. That was back in 2005, and man, the way they got that through is like just classic political nonsense. I mean, just the way they get it through most times, to summarize, was basically one guy, one congressman that had a lawyer, get write up the bill for him. He introduced it, and then had them assign the bill to the subcommittee that he was the head of. And so he was the head of the subcommittee. So what does he do? He takes some military spending budget. It's an appropriations bill. He takes an appropriations bill to give the people, the military, tents in the Middle East, right? And never, like 99.9% of the bills that have any type of appropriations bill attached onto it gets passed, because nobody wants to be a congressman who votes down a military spending bill on some necessary items for the military, right?
Or shut down the government because no one's agreeing on the appropriations bill, all this other stuff.
Yeah. It was just, that's how they got that Real ID Act passed. Very, very sketchy. I looked into it. I was like, that's unbelievable. That's just like, okay, like, so it's, looking into stuff like that. That just got me to realize it was just money kind of running the show.
Yeah. Same thing. I was looking at just how much actual work days in office that Congress have. I mean, they're working almost. I mean, gosh, if you had regular corporate job salary, it'd be like having 3-month paid vacation, really. And
every year,
all your trips are back and forth paid for, all your food and lodging. The health is better than anything else out there.
Oh yeah.
The pension, you're in it for one term, you've already got a pension. It's just crazy. And then this time that they spend on all the legislative stuff is they could just, when they pass bills, they like to group them together so they can negotiate, saying, oh, we can't pass this because the other side is saying no, but they'll pass it if we agree to them on this thing, and so we'll say yes. So you get two things nobody wants that passes, and they're not culpable. They're saying, look, we had to pass it because they wanted this, but we're not going to give them that. But if they gave us this, we're going to have that. So we're working together across the aisle, and then all they're doing is working across the aisle to screw us, because we're like, no one even wanted this. Right?
Nobody wanted it. What are you even doing? And then when it doesn't work, you're gonna blame the other party no matter what. Yeah.
And it's just a sham. I think like some of the people watching is like, when's the end game? It just seems continual. Is it gonna be continual? Is it just like some people think it's just a generational thing. All they need is one generation to fully go along with the system, and it's done. It doesn't matter what the history books say. It doesn't matter what the previous generation says. I mean, it's
once you have the you're talking about the Democrats versus Republicans, right? Once you have that, you have the good guy and a bad guy. Everybody's on one side or the other. They make sure to split the topics accordingly, right? And they pick all the divisive topics and then make their entire parties about those topics. And then you have a us versus them mentality. You have the good versus evil. There you go. Everybody's rooting for their team, and that's that.
I mean, probably one of the first things we go through is the Hegelian dialect, or dialectic, if I should say that correctly. I don't know if you've went through it at all. Oh, okay, never mind. I went a total different path, I guess. But
well, I don't know what is it? What dialect? Hegelian?
Hegelian dialectic.
Hegelian.
Yeah. It's the same concept. It's just someone in the past had a more formal term for it, and it's one of those conspiracy theory paths. But you already know it. You just don't know a technical term someone already had a thing for it. But it gets crazy. It gets crazy. Yeah. All the different types of things. But in the end, all it is system of control. They're lying. They're hiding something, and like everyone wants to know why. It's like, well, if you're going to control people and you're going to benefit off of it, that's just one reason. But also
that's a good enough reason.
Yeah, and then the other thing is like, there's probably more to it. And what the last thing that they want are people out there waking up, with pitchforks and torches burning down the people at the top. So I think that's why they hide a lot of other stuff, and I think that's like the Antarctica, the North Pole, all the stuff that they're hiding. That might be a way out. That might be an answer that can end some of these systems of control, and that's why they're doing as much as they can to keep everyone in the dark about it.
It's definitely like why, and you can kind of like theorize on it, and I have my my opinions and guesses, but it's like, why would they do that in the first place, right? And it's like, okay, well, probably we can say probably to hide God, right? That seems to be the common like opinion of people, and that could be their primary, maybe not, maybe whatever. Like that's one option. Another option would be like doing a bunch of sketchy Antarctica, right? Have a whole nasty thing going on down there under the ice or whatever, right? Like they can have if they can have a whole continent or large space that's totally isolated to themselves to do whatever evil shit they want, then that's a pretty good reason right there as well, yeah. And what stuff they're doing, like what major bad things are they doing? It's like I don't know. Like I definitely don't know. But like the stuff that's coming out about, I'm gonna throw this out there about like the pedophilia rings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's alarming, and that's definitely the one thing that I look at like, oh, like that could really be the thing that they're hiding. That could be one of the major messed up things that they're doing, is like maybe it's large scale, something like that, potentially down there, maybe not, or whatever, right? But I fear that, like, I mean, really, I do fear that they have some just large, small city, right, or small town, or right, some sizable area down there with all the people who are in on it, corrupt people who are into pedophilia stuff, and they just bring all these young kids, they just abduct them, right, and bring them down there, and like, that's totally possible, dude. Like, that's totally possible, and how messed up would that be?
The thing is, the public know that pedophilia rings exist. I mean, the entire cover-ups with the Catholic Church, I mean, they've even revealed it multiple times.
Yeah.
Pedophilia rings just in like the um, the sex slave trade. They know it exists. It's in the news. It's even in mainstream news. There's people
Yeah.
who a long list of people who are in politics that have been charged with pedophilia and things like that.
I see what you're saying, but when you go to Antarctica, if you go to Antarctica and we prove the Earth's flat, then we end up finding out who's lying. We have, I think, a very strong chance of finding out who was behind that. And you really start to bring these shadow figures who are pulling all the strings. You might really bring them to the spotlight because everyone's going to really, I mean, there's going to be a huge scale effort to track down who is in on this lie. And it could be those people who are the head of all these pedophilia rings, because the people who get busted are the people lower down, right? They have all these scapegoats, and they can be real scapegoats and everything, right? Like real people doing messed up stuff, and they send them to jail, and we got them, and we're doing our best to break up the rings and all this stuff. But until you get those people in power out of power, you know, it's the same people hiding the planet, the shape of the planet, that are perpetrating these type of atrocities, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it really is. So, yeah.
And I think it really takes just ordinary people to care enough and do something about it, because I'm one of those people who think that when you reach a certain like threshold of society, like a certain elite position, you have to go through some sort of initiation where you can be blackmailed, or
Yeah.
so either you have to be in on it, or they'll implicate you in some ways, or
Your family, right?
Yeah.
These loved ones against you. That's what evil
Yeah.
people do, right? Like, we'll kill your family or whatever.
Yeah. And so that way there's always a control system in place to prevent people from the top to leaking to everyone else and all this other stuff. And then they'll probably say, look, it's not like anyone will believe you anyways. We'll ruin your life. No one's going to believe you. And so there's really no choice you have.
Yeah. So why would you? You have it good right now. We're paying you good and everything, you know, like,
Yeah.
why would you, for what? You know, like, your life would be in danger, your family's life would be in danger, all your money would be gone, your reputation would be ruined. Like, yeah, why bother?
Yeah. And that's why I think same thing with like the people who get really prominent in the science, the mainstream mainstream science community, like Bill Nye Science Guy, Neil deGrasse Tyson, whoever, you know, it's like they're not gonna throw away everything just to tell people, hey, you guys have been lied to, all this other stuff, and then people will be like, crazy, he's gone, he's whatever. And same thing with like we notice like famous people in like the celebrity industry where they just all of a sudden die. And like the last thing that they said is, you know, something that goes against the authoritarians, or like someone like the Clinton body count, and you know, say something bad about Hillary Clinton or the Clintons in general. Next thing you know, you just committed suicide, and that's that.
Yep. That's like, I was looking at it just a couple of days ago, and this is a little more, you know, out there. I'm going to say, you know, this isn't like a firm thing. I just kind of like saw it and whatever. So, but it was Dave Chappelle, right? I mean, that's a classic example. That's a classic example of a guy. I mean, there's so much to say about that. Like, it could be like emotional, man, because like he's awesome, you know, like he was so good, and like he was really speaking out and saying some truth, you know, speaking some truth, and he, you know, he said he wasn't willing to go with what their program was. You know, they're telling him what to say, and he wasn't comfortable with it. And he was like, and they're like, I remember hearing the story of, it goes something like, you know, he was about to get on a plane, and he was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And they're like, by the time you land in wherever, Chicago, your whole career is going to be ruined and all this. And like, that's what happened. I remember there was some other famous, either a rapper or something, who was telling that story, and he was like, yeah, man, they just like cut off the king of comedy, you know, they just like totally cut off his head, you know, and he was just like nowhere to be found. And he disappeared for a decade. Like, holy crap. And to like elaborate on that is what I saw a couple of days ago, whose channel it was on, but it's on YouTube, and they're saying like how the Dave Chappelle that just came out here on Netflix, right, then put up the 2 specials, that it's not actually Dave Chappelle, which was like, the first time I like thought of it, I was like, like, because 2 things, like, one is like when you look at him, like I've looked at like the facial comparisons, and yeah, a decade went by, but he doesn't really look like the same person. I
Yeah.
really think he might not even be Dave Chappelle. Like, how hard is it to impersonate Dave Chappelle, right? It's not that hard. You got to get somebody that looks similar to him, but it's been a decade anyway, so you have a little wiggle room there. And they put him out. And when you watch the specials, I mean, there's nothing edgy about what he's saying. Like they're not that good. Like
Yeah.
neither of those specials were anything off that would touch any buttons or make anyone go, "Oh, I can't believe he said that." There was none of that. And that's really who he is.
Yeah.
He does that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was pretty laid back. There was like a third special. It's not a special from Netflix or something, but there's a stand-up routine that he did. Now that was more Dave Chappelle, and that had
But
some crazy truths to it. If you
I'll take
ever
a look.
watch it,
I'm not like convinced of that he's not real or
yeah.
whatever.
But
I didn't know he did a third one.
yeah, and he says things like, yeah, like who turns down that much money? But that much money comes certain things that you have to be a part of, and I didn't want to be a part of it. And he goes, he regrets it. He doesn't know if he made the right decision because he'd rather have the millions of dollars, but he just knew yeah, that decision that he made, it wasn't easy, and
Yeah.
he made that decision. And I mean, still, like, living a good life, $100 million, being like having your own show, being famous, whatever. Even if you have to wear a dress or something.
You saw that? Did you see that about
Yeah.
him?
That one with
Okay.
that's the one
Yeah.
with Oprah. That was the Oprah interview.
Yeah, where he's like, yep. Where he's like, I don't. They keep trying to make me wear a dress. I don't want to wear a dress. Like, no, it's already in the script. It's already written. It's already happening. Like, he's like, no, man. Like, I don't want to do that. And they're like, no, it's happening. That's weird. And he's like, yeah. I saw that video.
And it's not like it's crazy, like it's not true. You go and look at every famous black actor, celebrity. They're in a movie dressed as a woman.
Yeah, so, it's crazy. Yeah, I'd never heard of it until seeing that.
Yeah, or we don't even pay attention to it. You go, oh,
yeah,
maybe some people think black males dressing up as women is a funny thing. It's like I don't laugh at it.
They just like need to feminize them and kind of humiliate him a little bit and like make him seem like not such a tough guy. I mean, I could see it with like, black guys and black guys are seem more like daunting and physically like very manly and stuff, and so they want to like think it's funny to like put them in a dress, right? But you can definitely see something behind it there where they're like trying to make him just get some credibility away from them being somebody to be kind of looked at and looked up to instead of they're just a comedian, right? You break them down to just some comedian slapstick throwing a dress on,
Yeah. I mean the rabbit holes. I don't know if I miss them at all, because like I almost don't need to go back to them anymore to look into it. It's just like a rabbit hole that was created for people to look into what in the end all, what does it really matter? What's the big picture of that conspiracy theory rabbit hole for that? It's like,
it's just a funny topic. There's nothing really. It's a sad thing that happened, and who knows what the true story is.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, but if we all talk like if we have flat earthers or conspiracy theorists talking about Hollywood, or even just the normal individuals, like, do you think Hollywood probably has some shady bad stuff going in its own? Like, you don't even have to go down to like the whole satanic rituals or whatever. All you have to do is like, do you think there's people taking advantage of other people who are in the business? Like, if you're a director or movie producer, or even actor or actress, do you think they can take advantage of just people who want to get into the industry? It's like, yeah. I mean, it's as simple as that. But and then it's are there going to be ones taking advantage of underage kids who want to get into the industry? Yeah, but people don't want to look into it. They just rather enjoy the movies, because if you take the whole industry down, well, there goes their entertainment. And it's also a lot of people who they looked up to. It's like, I mean, can you imagine all the people who looked up to just some of the actors that got touted as being sexual predators or whatever? And the thing is, they never went to trial. So you don't know if it was true
Yeah.
or not. But they're done with. Plus, no one looks up to them anymore.
I know.
And
Like Louis C.K. I feel like you're talking about.
oh yeah, yeah, Louis C.K. I liked his stuff. He was funny.
Well, he's my favorite dude, my favorite comedian. I still love him, and I read about what happened and everything, and it was
Yeah,
like, and he came out and apologized for it, and you see where he went wrong. He definitely made a mistake. It wasn't. It's just you weren't there, so it's kind of hard to say. But yeah, anyway, that was kind of like that was just so sad, man, because he was pushing some boundaries, and with his show, I loved his show, man. His show was so
yeah.
good that he produced and directed and everything, and starred in, obviously.
Here's here's the thing. Like the worst thing I heard about with him. I don't know if he sexually abused or anything else, but I think the worst thing I heard for him was he just jack off in front of like people who worked for him. Is
Yeah,
that it?
yeah. Which you can't do that. Like
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
terrible thing to do. Like you can't do that. He abused his power. Basically, he thought that he thought this chick was into him, right? And like he was into it, and he like kind of forgot that there has to be this really solid line between a boss and an employee. Even though she was like, it seemed like an extended employee, like not really like directly, or like kind of extended,
yeah.
and so he didn't think it would be that big, that issue, but it obviously it blew up as one, and and that's just a shame. I haven't even seen what he's done like recently. It's kind of weird. And he put out a movie right after that. Like there was a movie about to come out, which I still haven't seen, but I guess it was all about like a person getting caught being like a sexual predator. It was like what the movie was about. It was like
Yeah.
crazy. It was like, oh, like what how is this like a coincidence? It definitely wasn't a coincidence. It was like, I guess maybe he dreamt up that film screenplay because of what was going on in his own life, subconsciously or something. But it was weird. It was weird.
Yeah. And I see. I don't know about that because there's this mentality that like in the professional industry, you don't mix pleasure with professional like business or whatever.
Right.
There's been like small companies I worked with where the is like a mom and pop type of business, and they're like they want people to date each other in a company because it's if it works
Yeah.
out, it's good because they work with each other better and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely not like a boss to employees thing though. You can't have that
well, yeah,
power.
well, there are people like yeah, well, actually, there are some people like because every organization has a chain of command type of
Yeah.
thing,
Right.
and the same thing with in the military. You can date someone else within a different division, right? Like
Right.
if you're like sometimes if you're like they frown upon an officer enlisted, but like higher ranked enlisted or a higher ranked officer with someone else in a different division, and they're usually okay with it because they don't affect each other. So
Right.
if it's kind of like that same thing. It's like, well, I dated a higher up in a different division or different whatever. It's we don't work directly with each other, but we do have like a kind of the same mission, same end product, whatever. And when it's in the
Maybe it was
bedroom
like,
in the privacy of their own room, who's to say what you can and can't do as long as it was consensual,
I know. I
So
think maybe that's where the line was like it was extended, and it was extended enough in a normal circumstance, but maybe because he is such an influencing person
yeah,
that that he just talked to one person and said, I don't like that chick, that her job would be gone. So it became, it was like that when in a normal circumstance it wouldn't be. You know what I mean? Maybe that's where it was. And he's such a good guy. He came out right away, just apologizing profusely and did everything. He seems like such a good dude, man. He really does.
but I think sometimes the standards also get too high. Is this like this the type of situation, uh, like a hierarchy relationship? Sometimes not directly related, sometimes not even directly related. It occurs in the real world, and it doesn't get hyped up. No one loses their job over it. All this other stuff. No one gets sued over it. They know, hey, you're entering into a personal relationship in a business situation. It's usually frowned upon because if the personal relationship takes a turn, it can affect the business relationship. People know that.
I work at this hotel, and it's right next to Golden One. It's called the Kimpton Sawyer. It's a Kimpton hotel. It's called Sawyer. But they have like a training manual. You know, there's like a piece of paper they hand out to everybody, and it's like the rules of working here and things like don't shit where you eat. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty funny. It was, yeah, the people definitely date within there. I'll tell you that for sure.
Yeah.
I got caught up myself.
Yeah. So you know, it happens. It's not illegal. I don't think it should be a societal, like huge societal backlash. Adults, if they're consenting, it really doesn't matter. If they're not consenting, now that's a totally different story. So that's the
Yeah.
thing, like where, I kind of, I'd say like defend, what's his name, like societally. Louis C.K. is like, look, I like what happens in the bedroom, whatever, right? You know, if it's obviously I'm married now, so I'm not going to do that. But you know, he's married too, right? Is he married?
I forget. I think he was. I should know.
So now that's the bad part. Like I won't defend him.
I know.
He probably shouldn't have done that when he's married. But it was something
I
like
think maybe he wasn't. I'm gonna go with he wasn't. Let's go with he wasn't because neither of us know.
Yeah. So, but like, there's some things that it's like, hey, just it's privacy of his own bedroom. You know, in a personal relationship, business could have been affected, but two consenting adults can go ahead and figure that out. Whether two people who work with each other, they know that the potential for the business having a negative impact if the relationship turns into a negative thing, right? So, yeah. I mean, you just have to be adult about it. Adults know what they're getting into, even if maybe they're drunk or whatever. It's just a bad decision, but their adults know that they made a bad decision. It's like, I don't think it's like something going to prison over. I don't think it's something that's like they should have just kept going with negative press and be associated with actual people who physically abuse non-consenting, minor. That's huge difference. So I just think people just lump in too quickly, and I don't know how we segued into this.
Hollywood's crooked. Hollywood's crooked. Hollywood's crooked. And the same people. This is like, many topics that generally go. Hear me okay?
Yeah, it was breaking up just a bit, but.
Yeah, when you start talking about Hollywood, there's definitely there's a certain topic that tends to get brought up with that, right? Of like, why is Hollywood crooked and who's running Hollywood, right? And I'm like, you're gonna say who made that would get your channel shut down,
no, I don't care. Like
no, I'm serious. Like that's something I don't talk about, like because it does get people's channel shut down. Like that's happened to Marty Leeds. You know that. Like he got his channel shut down for talking about that specific topic.
I don't care. I'll just go to my backup channel and other platforms. Like one of these days, I was actually going to do a show titled On Topic. Okay, let's talk about the Jews, because they're the forefront of everything. One of the things I want to like get towards is like they've been kicked out of so many countries in the past couple hundred years, and no one asks why. I mean, I have friends that are Jewish, that are Jews, so, and I trust them. I mean, but again, don't lump in one person because of their association with a group to everything. But still, time and time again, this type of group seems to always have something going on where everything in the world is affected by it. And is it the world's problem, the rest of the world's problem, or is it the problem with the group specifically? And we should look into it more. And most people have looked into it more. And is it a subsect? Yes, within the group. But then it's also, you'd look at it as, well, could all the Jews that I like and are friends with, are they all in on it and hiding it so well and like waiting for a chance? Like are they do they know the whole like New World Order thing that's going on, that they're going to be ahead of it. It's like no, from personal experience, I'd say no. But then
Yeah.
we
It's a
obviously
hierarchy,
see,
right? It's a
yeah,
hierarchy. It's like how many people know what, right? It's like
yeah.
the hierarchy situation.
But when we definitely see just like people who are so into Donald Trump, and a lot of them are like libertarians, anti like anti-imperialism, and anti-Jewish money, bankers and stuff like that. But he's like the biggest friend
He's
to,
in
yeah, in
bed with
bed
them.
with the Israeli Jews, the Zionists, and it's like, what is going on? Cognitive dissonance here.
I know. Yeah, tell that to my roommate, man.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
dude, such a Trumper, man. It's like, and man, it's like, dude, don't you know? Don't you
yeah,
know who he's tied into? And they've been kicked out of so many countries for like the last like 500 years. You just like, it's such a long list,
yeah,
crazy. And you start thinking about. I mean, that's a whole rabbit hole right there. Like, and are those the people who are really running the show? Like, are they? Because to the best of our knowledge, it seems like that's the case. And like, but who knows, right? Maybe none of them know, and it's only the top 0.01% of Jewish people who maybe may or may not be Jewish people, and they could just be pulling strings with that whole, with the using them to control everybody else. Who knows? And there's so many good people that are Jewish out there that not everybody's plotting against plotting against you. It's like it can't be like that. But there's something with their culture. Like they're like they always end up in power and like smart. They're smart too. Like I don't know. Speaking from like I'm gonna give like an example, just small example, right? Is like I grew up, I had 70 people in my graduating class in high school, and I went to school with all the same people throughout growing up. But I had there's only one Jewish person, buddy Nathan, and he's a really good guy, very good guy. Nothing but good things to say about him. Still friends with him. He graduated top of the class, like very top of the class, man. And like his dad's a judge. He's the only judge I'm from Lake Tahoe, which is a couple hours away from here. He's the only judge in the town up there now. He became a judge, and so like there he is, position of power, right?
yeah.
And like and Nathan, he's doing. Honestly, I don't know what he's doing, but he went to USC and he's doing very well for himself. Like so, they're smart. They keep after it. They push their kids, and they end up in positions of power. And they kind of date within themselves. It sort of seems like generally as well. I don't know. It's a big topic, dude.
Yeah, and it's hard because a lot of people tiptoe along with it, and I do too, but only because I care about the friends that I have that are Jewish, and I know that I don't implicate them into this whole Jewish
Yeah.
conspiracy. And the thing is, there are a lot of Jewish people who are the ones leaking like the plans and a lot of the things that are actually occurring within a lot of the more formal ceremonies and things like that out to the public. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't know about them, or they'd just be pretty biased potential lies. But when we hear it straight from like those who defected from the Jewish religion and and stuff like that, it's like, I'm gonna listen. And so it's like they've got something important to say. They wouldn't have to have said it because what they're saying is pretty anti-Semitic, even though they are the Semitic, right? So it's like, I'm not the one saying it. It's information provided by a Semite, and you're calling him an anti-Semite? No.
Yeah, he can't be against himself.
Yeah, it's there's a reason for it, and so look into it. But the thing is, the societal again groupthink is, if you look into it, you're automatically labeled racist, anti-Semite, whatever, and then they just bum rush you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it feels like flat Earth all over again. If we talk about the Jewish conspiracy, it's like talking about flat Earth. You're crazy. You're delusional.
You're now an asshole instead of just being crazy, though, right?
Yeah, you're a racist.
You're anti-Semitic. That's the worst thing you could be, dude.
Yeah. Maybe we'll go on again when we've been going on for like 2.5 hours, and I don't
Oh,
want
geez.
to take
I did
too
not
much of your
notice.
time. But yeah, like any other show, like if you want to talk about Antarctica more, because I think
Whatever.
I get segued a lot in my research. Like I'll all of a
Same.
sudden I'm like North Pole, look more research Antarctica, and then all of a sudden,
Little distilled water, you know. I gotta jump around topics a little bit myself.
yeah. Look into I know you're sharing house, but look into reverse osmosis, 5-stage filter. It's pretty easy to set up.
I know about
Uh,
ROs. Yeah.
okay, yeah. Instead of plastic distilled
Yeah.
water.
I
Uh,
know, I know, I
I
know.
know.
I trust me. I wish, like, I wish this is just what I got to deal with. You know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Dude, I'm just lucky. I grew up in Lake Tahoe, like I said, and Lake Tahoe is a huge. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with
Yeah,
Tahoe,
I
but
know
it's like
Lake
a
Tahoe.
dude, clear, nice water, and that's what I grew up drinking.
Oh
So
yeah,
lucky. There's no fluoride in that water. Clean. Like everybody like how it's like, oh, drink Tahoe tap. That's like the thing.
yeah.
Everyone loves to
I
drink
think
Tahoe
I
tap.
think they I think they stock it with trout, so there's some pretty big trout that's stocked in there. I'm a big fisherman, so I think I've seen
I know.
fishing videos with the people fishing in Lake Tahoe, and they get these huge trout. I miss catching the huge trout. I only get like the small ones here, but
Yeah, there's some fish in there, and
yeah,
yeah, I actually know. Yeah, I know some people that own fishing charters out there. Out there, like it's mostly on the North Shore, is where I could get into it. But yeah, there's some good fishing. You know,
yeah.
decent.
I'm glad we kind of can segue into like the lighter topics,
Yeah,
because I mean, what people don't realize is flat Earth is a heavy topic in itself.
it is.
And then every other conspiracy theory kind of pales in comparison, but there are some conspiracy theories that are pretty deep. The Jewish conspiracy is a very, very deep one, and it relates into the because it relates into biblical stuff too, the older ancient scriptures, the scrolls and stuff like that. That's not really in like the like predominant within like the King James Bible and the Old Testament, but uh I mean, when you see these ancient scrolls and texts and older mythologies that have some of the same biblical stories, similar to the Noah's flood, from different, very, very far away from each other civilizations. I mean, that you just realize how tight things, how so much different things tie into each other, and it's like an aspect that you can't ignore. I don't know if you're religious at all. I'm agnostic. Um,
I'm like essentially agnostic. I do believe in God, but it's like just as much as I sort of can. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like I'm not crazy religious. I do believe in God, but I was agnostic for most of my life. Put it that way. You
yeah,
know, that's all agnostic means, just
yeah.
in general.
And like there's it's so hard. I mean, we're tricked so easily by humans. Imagine how tricked we can be with those that are uh have a little bit more power than the average human, if we're talking metaphysically and spiritually, right? How I mean, just humans can convince us of stuff. So what can a deity convince us of things, right? So I'm always careful about who I want to put my belief and my my soul with, I guess. All I know is what I can do here, good or evil, I'll do good. It doesn't matter who you
Yeah,
believe in, as long as you do good, it doesn't really matter in the
yeah,
end. But if I'm believing in an entity and religious or a doctrine, and it goes against what I believe is good, but because I believe in it and because the deity is the deity and thus whatever the deity says is good,
yeah.
then you're telling you're in a
You're
weird
giving
gray
away your own
area.
morals. You're giving away your morals to something else that's not yourself. You know, God's
Yeah,
supposed to be within you. You have a moral compass. Like
yeah,
trust it. You know.
yeah. So it's those that gets deep too. Um,
Yeah, fun topic
it's
too,
fun
for
topic.
sure.
It's very philosophical
It is.
and spiritual, but I think it's worth talking about because I think not enough people talk about it at all. I mean, This,
especially in like a kind of chill way, right? Where it's like, okay, like, well, we know what we know, and that's, sort of
yeah,
like look at it from a realistic perspective, like some of the stuff I look at is like, oh, like the sun is the same size as the moon in the sky. I'm like, that's like, I don't see how that's really a coincidence. I mean, I guess it could be, but like that's rather interesting. Like,
yeah,
like I see like some Prince of Design type of thing is like what I end up looking at, which you watching being a Marty Leeds follower, you see
yeah.
a lot of those
The
pi and pi
numerology.
and yeah,
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 and and it's such a tough one with the numerology because the secret societies, the esoteric things that are kept hidden, and there is there is some beauty to it. There is some history to it. There have been a lot of ancient civilizations that kind of thought in similar lines in some ways, and then but then we're subjugated to, okay, who currently is in Freemasonry, where we and the symbolism that they represent, and the powers that they have, that they don't seem to be changing the world in better ways. So I feel
yeah,
like I agree. Freemason could have been something of a good, but it's just like everything else. They've inverted it and perverted it, and not everyone is good. And but it's the same thing when I think of like the the Nazi symbol, the swastika.
yeah.
It's like
I don't know
that's
what's going on with that.
yeah, that's good everywhere. Every civilization is a sign of good well being, and then
It
all of a
was.
sudden the Nazis show up, and now it's inverted and perverted. And so I'm thinking,
Mm-hmm.
who's to say that the pentagram wasn't the same way? You know,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah, but definitely something about that swastika is like it just draws the eye. It's like the most recognizable symbol in the world. And like
yeah,
when you start to think about why it's so vilified, right? It's like, well, when did it become vilified? Oh, well, that was back when Hitler, right? And so what happened? What was the big event then? Well, it was the Jewish concentration camp,
yeah.
right? Oh, okay, all right, it's interesting.
And then when you look into it a little bit more, you realize he's just trying to get the Jews out, and
Mm,
he's also working with the Pope and a whole bunch of other stuff, and like some people who came out against like the Holocaust deniers are saying, that it didn't quite happen the way the history book said it was, and I would say, okay, I would agree with that, because currently mainstream news right now is narrative propaganda, and if that's the case, then history is the same thing. And
I know. I went to Berlin one time, right? And I went out to one of it was like the second biggest like concentration camp in all of Germany. It wasn't Auschwitz, it was like the next level down
yeah,
or whatever. It was like a major one. And it was like, honestly, it was just like the amount of Jews that were supposedly exterminated, like millions, right? Like 6 million, I want to say 6 million.
yeah, I think that's
Um,
right.
and there was a small place, man. Like it was a small facility, and they showed me like how many of them were exterminated or like murdered, right? And it was like it was just like a small, it was like a one like a 1,000 square foot little 1 story building where they would have them come in for a fake doctor appointment and then walk through this door and that door, and then behind that one door there was a little flap would open, and then somebody would have a gun and shoot them. And it was like how can you, they would know they would know, it would get around if they were killing like 1,000 people a day. Like everybody in that camp would know when you go to a doctor appointment you're not coming back.
Yeah,
Like and they had like, there was just like, I'm like, I literally don't know how you could possibly get rid, like just go through that many people. And there's people who lived there for like years. They were like, they were there for like 4 years, and like you're like, okay, well, there for 4 years and you didn't die, then you obviously, like, they weren't running through people like crazy. Like you'd have to really get away with killing that many people. Like, so it was just a little suspicious for that,
yeah.
for those reasons. And you can definitely see it as like, the whole museum was all just like, oh, there's just like sad states of people and everything. But you can definitely see it as a pillar of respect the Jews, love the Jews, never talk out against
Yeah, and it's gotten to the point where they've been so victimized they could do whatever they want. That's basically what the narrative is now. It's like they've been
Yeah, they're the
persecuted so
victims.
much they could persecute everyone else, and we just have to go along with it. It's like, what? No, no, evil is evil. I don't care
Yeah,
who's
dude.
doing it. But it's hard to convince people. It's hard to even bring them in this conversation. They won't even have this conversation. I think that's what's great to find other people who finally kind of reached uh I wouldn't say consensus, at least one major agreement within a big conspiracy theory is like flat earth is one of them, and it's pretty easy because day to day the earth is observed flat, not curved. Um the science behind it doesn't support the globe earth theory, whatever it is. Even gravity, the theory about that isn't quite there. Second law of dynamics, that's everything is just it, it's just not explained by science like you think it would be.
Yeah, the they do try to like divide. Sorry, my little headphones are dying. I'm
Oh,
plugging
okay.
it in. But they do try to divide everybody, especially in the conspiracy world, because
Oh, your sound got. I can't hear you. Hold on.
one of the main.
Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me okay, or
Okay.
let me know if you get
Yeah,
a.
I hear you now. I don't know
Is
if
that
that
okay?
was
Because
you or if that was me, but okay.
right now you're not on this, so let me know if you can hear me okay,
Yeah, I can hear
and
you.
then you don't. Okay, all right. Let me know if you have an issue, and I'll put these back on.
It's fine.
Okay, but yeah. So one thing that that they try to divide the community with is aliens,
Ah,
right?
yeah,
Dude, because like I don't believe in aliens. Like no, dude. Like I'm not saying that for sure or whatever, right? But I don't think aliens exist, and like I don't think space exists. Like why would I think aliens do? And they push that, man. And that's really that gets you going. Like okay, if they're out there doing ancient aliens left and right, that
yeah,
as on Discovery Channel, everybody's watching that. That's popular, and they have all these fun. They make it all fun, and that's just like a divisive thing to like take a grip of the conspiracy people and just throw them off to the side and lead them astray.
yeah. And the same thing. Like I had to correct Marty Leeds, and I was like, oh man, I don't want to correct Marty Leeds. Uh, but
He's
yeah,
not perfect.
when he's talking about Bill Cooper, and it's like Bill Cooper is all this, and I was like, no, 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 no. He didn't believe in aliens. He did. He was like the biggest alien believer, and then he figured it out and saying it was all a sham. It's a big government cover up that they're planning like a Project Bluebeam type of thing, and
Yep.
it's great because you realize how someone like he was just one of us. He was just kind of ahead of the times. I don't think he was right on everything, but none of us are right. You talked to me like a year ago, totally
Yeah.
different outcomes on what I think about conspiracy theories, and probably a year from now it might be different. Things might change. I don't think I'll go back to globe Earth, that's for sure. But I'm it's like revisiting a lot of these different conspiracy theories, and I think he had it right with the Project Bluebeam. I think there are no extraterrestrial aliens from outer space. There could be potential alien-looking beings. They're just different species, just like us. Whether they have more metaphysical powers or not, or shape shifting or not, like whether if it's something like the biblical or the ancient mythological archons and the uh, other stuff like that, right? That's still it's conjecture. It's up in the air. We don't know. Uh, or maybe we're just the only ones here, and so far, observably, we're the only ones here. So I as much as I might kind of look into like David Icke's theory of archons, where I look into there's another person who 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 has a different take on the archons. It's not quite the David Icke's archons theory. It's more of very similar to the Hammadi uh, kind of aspect of archons. Um, and it's just it's just we're until we find out, we don't know. Right now, it's just it's conjecture. For one thing, is I don't trust government. I don't trust the mainstream how they cover things. So most likely, it's not outer space aliens. I could rule that out. 99% sure of that. But like the archons, I'm like, yeah, it's like it's still, I'd say maybe a 1/4% chance that they exist, like they say exist, or whatever the ancient mythology or texts say that they are, because they're depicted in those history uh, scriptures, scrolls, tablets, drawings, whatever. They're there. Can't deny that they haven't been discussed in the past, but it's do they
It's
still
a
exist? We
topic.
don't know.
I don't know much about it. Like, would know. I haven't even heard the word archons before. Like, I don't even know. So you'd be the expert on that, and I definitely wouldn't rule anything out. Look anything out, but yeah, no. I mean, when it comes, I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about it and everything. But yeah, when it comes to just I don't know. It's like talking about aliens. It's like what impact does that have though? Like even if other beings are existing or this and that, it's kind of like, well, where are they? Yeah, like where are they? I don't see them anywhere. When they show up, then we can talk about it because I'm seeing nothing, and I don't know how you could just whatever, if they're here, cool. If not, cool. Like either way, if they're a being, then they're just going to be they're going to be good or bad, like people are,
Yeah,
like we'll deal with them as it comes. Like like it's just like what what are
yeah.
they
But
just
what?
where's there?
But
I
what?
do think it's like because aliens are so tied in. Sorry to interrupt you, but like aliens are so tied into like space, that it's like I have such a problem. It's like
Yeah,
alien space. Oh, where's all these planets? There's aliens. It's like yeah, logically, yeah, there should be. And like it's like okay, well, yeah, I don't think space even exists. Which I'm not saying it does. Like for sure it doesn't. I've never been up there. I don't know. I don't know if there's a permanent. I don't know what's up there, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. It just ties right into the narrative.
yeah. And if you think about how the media is controlled, it's very tight knit as far as mass viewing, like
Yeah.
YouTube, all these platforms, it's small viewing. Even if you have a couple thousand, only the people who really like the person and what they normally talk about, they enjoy. Like if you see someone like Joe Rogan, Logan Paul, or whatever, and they start talking about flat Earth, and like the viewers are like, oh, I don't want to listen to him talk about flat Earth again, all this other stuff. Um, but
Aliens are more fun, more
yeah,
exciting.
yeah, but the mainstream, they could totally fake everything. It's like all the news media is saying, "Oh, aliens have landed. You see these aliens
Yeah,
coming down."
I'm
And
waiting for it. I'm waiting for that Independence Day situation to pop up. Right,
yeah,
like, here they are. Look at all the CGI we came up with. Shit.
yeah, and it's
It's like,
like,
oh man, here we go again.
yeah, and people will believe it. A lot of people will believe it. It's like, all right, finally we got aliens. It's like no normal person is gonna go up to them and talk. And then I'll bet you they'll have these Q&A sessions with an alien. It's like an 8-year-old gets to ask a question. Hi, Mr. Alien. What type of food do you eat?
Yeah.
And then
No, we don't actually eat food. We just ingest the sun. And we're all
yeah,
what's it called? What's that called? Would you just eat sun rays? It's called a thing. It's like vegetarianism. There's like
yeah.
vegan.
It'd
There's
be
like
like photosynthesis or something.
it's called breatharianism. That's
Oh,
what it's
okay.
called. Um,
But yeah, they'll make it seem more legitimate because a kid is asking a direct question to the alien.
yeah, yeah.
It's like,
Just some guy in a costume. Like,
yeah,
I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet. That's going to be their last card. I feel like that's going to be a card they're just waiting to play. Like, maybe Flat Earth gets big enough, right? Where they're
yeah,
like, oh shit, like maybe that thing's when that starts competing with aliens, right? Aliens
yeah,
and Flat Earth, then maybe they'll bring an alien out of the closet.
yeah.
Here, no, like alien space.
The thing is, I think it'll backfire them unless they have like a physical representation of it, because they can't just CGI it. Because
Why not?
Why not?
Well,
CGI it. Why not? They can get away with it in movies. Why wouldn't they? Maybe they'll put them in the costume and then add some CGI or some shit like that. Either way, it'll be behind a curtain. Nobody's meeting the alien.
yeah, because it's the same thing as the NASA moon landings. There's a lot more people who think the moon landings were fake than there are people who think that the Earth is flat.
Yep.
Not necessarily. I mean, I'd say all flat earthers say the moon landing is fake, but not all moon landing people who think the moon landing is fake are flat earthers, type of thing.
Yeah, you can say the same thing with like moon landing to 9/11, right?
Yeah, and so it's gonna be the same thing. It's like, hey, we want to see some physical aliens. When can we meet some physical aliens and interact with them? And so people will be waiting to go, okay, we can't. So that seems fishy, and it's gonna be the same thing. So they need to make some physical, and I think that's where AI will come in, because you make a robot, it's like artificial intelligence, alien being. They don't need to CGI it.
Yeah, I can see that going that route, like not to take credibility from that. I think that would be much more challenging. I would imagine what they would do at least first while technology is catching up, unless they have some crazy technology we don't know about. But I would see them more being like, oh, here's the alien on video camera, right? And like, here's them doing some stuff. Maybe a week goes by, and then, oh, there it goes on its spaceship back to space. He says he'll be back in 30 years, know? And it's like, oh, no, don't you remember when the aliens showed up? Like, that was a thing. And then everybody says, yes, that was a thing. That was the thing. That was a thing. And there you go. Sold. He's gone. Nowhere to be seen.
And then they'll be like, this is the message that they left Earth. Earth, we will be back in 30 years. We're going to conquer you. And see you then. And then all the world leaders is like, one world government. All right, we'll be ready.
Yeah.
Give us your freedom, or the aliens will destroy us.
If they go with the one world, like, which seems like they're going for, if they don't have it already, right?
Yeah.
But that would be the very, like, that would be the way to go, right? Aliens, one world government, like, that's the move. The move to make. If you're trying to like do that, that's the move.
But I feel like it's the hardest thing, because of the conspiracy theorists, we already seen it, heard it mentioned from president after president since Reagan, that and even back in 1917, that the best way to have a one world government is to have a fake alien invasion, right?
Yep.
And all the conspiracy theorists are gonna be like, hey, this is fake. Look, this is all the times they said it, and it's finally happened. Project Bluebeam, people, and people are be like, no, finally there's aliens, and you guys are just conspiracy nuts, and it's flat Earth all over again.
There's a statue of Reagan that's at the state capitol here in Sacramento. There's this is where the capital is, right? California is in Sacramento, so the California State Capitol museum / active legislature is both there, but they have a statue right underneath the rotunda, the main entryway. There's like right below that, there's a big old bronze statue of Reagan smiling, because he used to be the governor of California. But yeah, he's down there. And then like, I don't know why I got on this Reagan, I guess, but right above that in the rotunda, which is like the main area, the dome, right? The dome and everything. In the center of the dome there, right in the middle of the Capitol, is Queen Isabella and Christopher Columbus's last plea to Queen Isabella is what the name of the statue is. There's Columbus and Queen Isabella of Spain, who financed Columbus's voyage, and Columbus is sitting there on one knee holding up a round ball, like a globe, right? It's like, yeah, it's just kind of like more like because I worked there for a few months like this year, and before I realized I wasn't making any money there, but yeah, they like Christopher Columbus is there with Apple. I used to see it all the time, just like, what is this nonsense? Like, dude, yeah, I used to have like my coworkers are like, Flat Earth got brought up once with them, and I was just like, like chilling at the Capitol, being like, wanting to be like, dude, you guys are wrong though. But like, if I like said anything then, it would just been like messed up. Like, you say something like that at a place that people are that indoctrinated and stuff, and it's like you're just an outcast at that point. I always had to bite my tongue when I worked there.
It'd be funny if we finally got the world to like we took over all the control systems. We went up into all the highest technological flying machines, whatever, and we just took video after video, and okay, it seems flat. It's not curved into a globe. And then all the statues that have like the globe, it's like we replace it with like a snow globe. I mean,
dome or whatever the hell the shape is. Like, okay, let's go ahead and smash this together, smash this ball to make it flat. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think like how many books are just ridiculous, how many shows are just wrong, how many people just said like, oh, they're pulling back, you know, astronauts and be like, what the hell was this guy doing then? Oh, then find this fucking guy.
I know.
You were lying, dude. Why were you lying? Like, there's so just everywhere. That's like everything. It would be like, overhaul.
It'd be hard to find them because they'd know. I mean, they probably have big nest egg. They probably have those underground bunkers, or they've got, you know. I'm pretty sure that the big powers that be, you know, there's that theory that they have a huge hidden underground base in New Zealand in case something happens.
I've heard many stories of underground bases, and I heard one about like Yosemite was supposed to blow, and so I think Obama like signed a thing and where they all have like a base in like somewhere in South America. I don't know. I've heard a lot of like tunneling stories about even Colorado. Heard some like weird underground. They definitely got underground stuff going on. You know, where it is, who knows? But we got some underground stuff going on. In Colorado, I went for just outside of Denver, over in whatever, a little suburb right on the mountains. There's like who's that big weapons manufacturer? Like a massive weapons manufacturer. Dude, there's like a major. It'll come to me eventually, but people will know what I'm talking about. But there's like a major weapons. Who is that, man? Hewlett. It's not like Hewlett Packard, but it sounds like.
There's anyway, two that I'm thinking of. Raytheon is one. The other is they do more energy related technology, defense systems.
I always want to say Hewlett Packard because I'm pretty sure it sounds like that. I know obviously it's not, but like it sounds like that, you know. But
let me see if I could find it.
So they I just saw like I saw like a headquarters that they have over there, which they have like a kind of like headquarters in the Denver area, and I think it's Littleton. It's not Littleton.
Lockheed Martin.
Lockheed Martin. There you go. See, Lockheed Martin. That sounds like Hewlett Packard, kind of.
in a way, it does. Yeah.
So yeah, they have like a really ominous looking building. It's kind of funny. It's like super like sleek and like aggressive looking. But I went on some really nice hiking trails right behind there. I could like look down into like this area they were like tunneling into, and I was hearing like explosions, like they were lighting off dynamite, you know, just like building underground. But that was just kind of like one example. But like, yeah, they're definitely they're underground like places.
Yeah, man, the facilities got to be nice because I mean, if they're down there, they're gonna probably be down there for at least 2 years.
Once they get down there, they're just gonna do whatever they want, right? Burrow around wherever they feel like, build whatever they want. You know, money's no issue.
I mean, it'd be interesting. It'd be cool to explore one of those things. I mean,
who knows what they got going on, man? It's gonna be a lot of. They're doing something, dude. It's a lot of tunneling. I'm sure they have some crazy stuff.
Yeah,
I'm sure they have some crazy stuff, but I'm sure most of it's pretty messed up as well.
Yeah, like you said, like child trafficking and stuff like that. It's like, but the thing is, I don't know if they would risk having something like that occur in their getaway, right? So
probably just a getaway, just in case whatever nuke goes off, or maybe they're planning a apocalypse or something or whatever. They have their just hideaway, you know. They just have hideaways.
But you definitely would have to be a high part of the system. Do you think like all the politicians know about it, U.S. politicians, like congressmen, or do you think only like the select few within it that are higher members?
I mean, I do think politicians are pretty low level generally, like very, very entry level, you know. Like, so they would be optional, you know. I mean, I'm sure they have dude, there's probably plenty of places to hide. They have plenty of underground bunkers just in cases, planted all over the world. Just in case it happens when they're over here or over there. So. And they could tell a politician that, oh yeah, you'll be fine. We got this bunker over here, you're good. But then when it comes down, nope, sorry, the gate's closed. We're full here. So
their little badge doesn't work. It's like, hey, what's going on?
It's not beeping. It beeped before.
They'll have like the man-sized pneumatic tubes. It's like, yeah, just get inside this pneumatic tube. You'll get to the base, and all it does is just dump them out in the middle of the ocean.
Just send them down to the base with like 1,000 other people packed into the room, just like, okay, you're screwed now.
Yeah.
Like, this is where you're staying, so here's your base.
Yeah, here's the thing with the bad guys, the evil people. Is like, how can you trust them? They lie, that they assume, they do whatever they can to stay and be in power at the top. It's like, how can you trust them when you say they're going to protect you? And especially when you see so many people just like dying by suicide, dying by like drowning. They went walking in the wintertime, like the CDC guy, and just drowned in cold ice water. It's like, how can you trust it when all these shady stuff goes on and it's the leaders doing it? Is it just, it's pretty much just like, well, when my time's up type of thing?
It's going to be their downfall, dude. It's going to be that, right? Like, there's too many people are going to be like, oh, like they're going to, a lot of the people up there that aren't at the highest level are just jumping ship to whoever's got the better ship, So it's like, they're going to be like, oh, I don't trust this guy anyway. I'll get off the train now before it goes down, get off the boat now before it sinks. So we'll jump ship quicker than, than if they're good people and stuff, and they'll just stay on board, whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of want to wait for that day to happen, because then there's a better chance for the system to go crashing and restart with something better. But also, we know that if that happens, billions of people will die. And that's another conspiracy theory. Do you really think that there are 7 billion people on Earth? Or maybe
you're definitely touching on a very interesting topic for me, because I definitely that was one of the the overpopulation is such an interesting topic, And I think I've thought about that before. Like, is there really 7 point whatever 5, right? It's like 7.5 billion people, and we're at like 7.6 technically or whatever. And it's like, yeah, I don't know who's conducting those censuses or how accurate they can be, But I don't know. I don't know. I do think there's definitely a lot more people now, and when you look at that, like the overpopulation or just the population growth rate, this is a topic that's very I am into this topic. But the growth rate is so exponential. It's not exponential, really. Exponential is not the word to use, because it's not exponential, But the growth rate is so massive that there is no sustaining that. Like, every 12 years, there's another billion people on the planet, supposedly, if that is true, right? And that is insane, because the first time we hit 1 billion people was in 1901, I believe. And then when we hit 2 billion, it was 1930, and we got to a point where now it's every 15 years, we're hitting another billion, to every 14, 13, and now we're at about 12 to 13 years, we're hitting another billion people. And it took forever to get to 1 billion. And that just happened in 1901. And because of the Industrial Revolution, that's what actually got the growth rate to go up. So you're talking about the end of the 19th century is about when the growth rate just started to creep up. And it just kind of looks like, oh, Industrial Revolution, and then it hits that. And it's only been at the very steep rate for about 60, 70 years, 80 years. We've really been at that really extreme, every 15 years, another billion people. So that's if that's true, or even close to true, that is so unsustainable that
I've heard some people say the resources that we actually have, we could probably sustain 27 billion people pretty easily at the current rate that we have stuff.
I mean, that's if I recognize your point, but that's if we have perfect distribution rates, right? And when no food's going bad, and you know what I mean, all these things, and if everybody's vegan, right, and nobody eats meat, and all of a sudden you get a whole bunch more. But that's not the reality. The reality is it's hard to get all the food to people, and food does get wasted at restaurants, because that's just how it has to be. Stuff gets expired, and you can't have homeless people giving them food after every day. And people are going to eat meat. You know, I can't make everybody a vegetarian without everyone freaking out. So I don't, because that's just a point to be made there.
Yeah, and I think like I know people top vegetarians like we're not vegan, we're vegetarians, lacto-ovo. Like if we have we want chickens so we can have daily eggs, and maybe a goat for milk rather than cow's milk. If we get milk, it's gonna be local, organic, grass-fed. So that's nice. The only meat that we eat is what we hunt or catch or fish.
Dude,
so like I fish.
So cool.
Yeah.
That's really like, I applaud you for that. You know, that's like I mean, that's great. I'm sure you have fun doing it and everything too, but you're doing, it's a great thing to do. You know, very near and dear to my heart is the whole, the factory farming, right? Factory farming is the most palpable, realistic evil in the world, and it's really hard to not support the industry because it's everywhere. All you gotta do is buy it. There you go, very tempting, but anyway, yeah, that's cool. That's great. It is.
I mean, a lot of like aquaculture. I mean, that was really touted in the 70s and 80s, and it just seemed to have been dropped. Because I feel like if seaweed is a big part of the diet for a lot of Koreans and Japanese, and it's packed with vitamin B and good nutrients and minerals, and
delicious.
Yeah,
salt on it.
It's good. Yeah, with salt and oil.
It's just salty, right?
Yeah.
Salt and oil.
And so I mean, there's that type of growth. Plus just the fish. I mean, if you can do it right, like we didn't have to. I mean, we overfish so much, it's just horrible. But a lot of the things is like there were so much fish just going through all the river systems, but we dammed it up for irrigation and reservoirs. And so all these natural spawn runs that go through all the rivers from the oceans to the water, it's gone. Like the Atlantic salmon used to be pretty regular. A lot of the striped bass that used to spawn would do the same thing. They'd go in and get landlocked and all this other stuff. So like big food sources, like even when you read the history books that they show you when like the colonists arrived in the U.S., I mean, they keep saying like there's just like rivers full of just fish jumping out of the water. I mean, that's just so much fish out there, and it's just so horrible to think that like now it's just you get lucky just fishing all day to catch like 3 or 4, enough to take home and eat. And it sucks because things were good, things were in harmony, they were in balance, and people could have easily fed themselves locally, but now we all rely on this big system.
There's too many people now, right? Like there's too many. I mean, I would say there's too many people to really, even if we didn't have the dams and stuff, probably there'd be too many people, demanding the food supply without actually growing. Maybe, I don't know, without actually growing yourself or whatever. It'd definitely be more challenging. Have you ever read The Monkey Wrench Gang, or do you know about that book?
Monkey Wrench Gang.
It's by Edward Abbey. Ed. He's got a few books, but that's his most famous one. But it's a fictional book, and he goes on a river rafting trip, and he in this fictional life, and they all their whole goal is to blow up the dam. Basically, there's like a big old dam. I forget which dam it was that he was talking about, but man, just reading that book too, I'm just like, I always think about those dams, and I'm just like, oh, it's just like the clog, clogging an artery, right? Blood clot, that's what a dam is. Just enough water to get around and slow down the flow. And yeah, dams. I'd push the button to blow them up. I'd push that button. Yeah, Edward Abbey is really, if you don't know about him, he's kind of a cool character. And he spent time outside. He was like a park ranger, whatever, and read some kind of fun books, like Wrench Gang being one of the more popular ones. But he's an avid naturalist. It's like a environmental activist or whatever, I guess.
We'll kind of go back a little bit. Red Pill Productions too. I don't know if it's related to Red Pill YouTube channel, but he was saying we're talking about aliens, but we won't talk. We kind of agree it's not going to be extraterrestrial, outer space aliens, but just beings that are different to us, saying possibility that maybe that the underground living tunnels may not be an escape. Uh, eh, like a where well humans may be able to escape there, but that's where the aliens might possibly be hiding out and kind of running things from that point of view. I
Yeah,
mean, that's always a possibility.
the whole like everything is under the scenes. Like there's a whole other layer of Earth basically like underneath where they're doing all
Yeah,
of that.
it's very similar
Yeah.
to flat Earth in ways. The flat, no, not flat Earth. Hollow Earth theory, like the Admiral Byrd's Hollow Earth. But also, like there's certain theories with Hollow Earth that it's so expansive, as big as ours, that there are probably like gateways that can you can transverse through. I don't know if it's through certain things like similar to ley lines, but still, it's all conjecture and stuff like that. But
It is, dude. It is. I like talking about it. It's kind of fun or whatever, but you always got to recognize when you're like talking about some shit that's like, dude, like where is it? Who cares? Like what, dude? You know what I mean? Like I'm just like, what? Like where are they? Show me the aliens. Show me these underground things. How are they affecting me? Like how are they affecting me?
How can we go and verify it? Like
just like so,
Antarctica, magnetic North Pole, we can verify. We can actually go there, but we don't know these spots where the underground layers are, the hideouts. They're probably more guarded than the Antarctic and the North Pole.
yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, I mean, obviously, I have my opinion on like how we further this knowledge, like discovery project that we're all on truth, bringing out the truth and everything is like, you can. The Antarctic is palpable, and you can go and prove it. And once you prove that, then we can all get to the real business of, yeah, maybe we do go. I mean, once we become in control, and everybody's awake to, oh, the Earth's flat. Okay, then who are the evil people? Okay, we got them. What were they controlling? You have this whole inversion of power, right, where you take it away from the top, and you're like, okay, well, what were they doing? Let's sequester all their paperwork, and you find out, oh, they have a facility that's underground over here. I'm like, okay, well, let's go find out, and then so you can really reveal some of that stuff. And maybe that is a huge operation cover-up thing that ends up being real,
Yeah.
But there's, whatever. Not to take anything away from it, it could be the craziest, biggest thing ever. But
I mean,
there's no real.
I think if people looked into it and there was some like some tangible way to verify it, and people looked into it, and I'd support that. Like, there's evidence for it written, or someone who leaks it. I mean, there's like almost no rabbit hole I won't go down,
Yeah, I agree. And I would like, if we can go take over a underground bunker or whatever, and somebody does it, cool, like sweet. I'd like to go check it out or see what they come up with or whatever,
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I feel like that's what the active military and maybe even retired military should really be into, because I mean, for the last couple of decades, they've just been kind of fighting some just people who they're just defending their country. We've been the invaders, the U.S. military, and they don't have high tech weapons. They've got some ordnance and some like assault guns, pretty much it. To actually go against the real bad guys who are the ones telling you to fight each other, to go and explore and take out these installations that are causing misery to the rest of the world. I think that's like what they're like. The military was meant for, like soldiers. They want to fight the good fight. They don't want to fight being the bad guys.
Yeah, absolutely true, dude. I believe the exact same way. I think everybody in the military is has a good heart, and they're going into it for reasons that are generally altruistic or good, good-hearted and everything. I totally agree. But that said, there definitely seems to be they're pawns of I mean, the U.S. government, military is the biggest power arm of evil people in the world. They're kind of keeping everybody in check, and that's just a shame. It's you gotta find a way for the military people to realize that the people telling them to do stuff are the people they need to be fighting against. It's like once you get to that point, like then okay, cool, we got a leg to stand on. We can actually find out some stuff. till then they're just kind of the enemy, you know, like Matrix, right? Y'all look alike to me. Yeah, and it's sad, but it's kind of true. And I you know, I got military friends. But, I got Jewish gay friends. I got nothing against it, you know, but it is I mean, I personally avoided the hell out of the military. I know you're in the Navy and everything, not taking away anything from that, but I for instance, just kind of funny, in high school I was in ROTC, which is junior, and I fully within 1 quarter I got kicked out of there, dude. I was like, it was just kind of funny. I just can't, you know, if somebody ever tells me to pick up a weapon, or even theoretically pick up a weapon, or by extension have some sort of involvement in like killing somebody else, like you better damn well make sure that it's something real, and you know that I'm like passionate about, and I'm like, okay, like this is a real thing, you know. The stories that they give are it's not something I was ever really sold on, you know. Like, just because I was born in your country doesn't mean that doesn't mean that I have to pledge my allegiance to you. I was definitely one of those people I didn't stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance my entire high school career. And I was like, dude, no, why would I pledge my allegiance to you just because I was born here? Like, give a break, dude. Like, I'm not gonna do that. But anyway, sorry, I don't know why.
No, that's fine. Like,
talking about military stuff is definitely like I feel really, especially like I know you're in the military, and I don't want to like be like that guy, you know. And that's definitely one of those topics that it's like it's hard because there's everybody knows somebody in the military, and there's a million good people who are involved in the military and were in it and stuff like that. And I'm like, it's just it's a touchy topic as well.
Yeah,
for sure.
I guess I would agree. I mean, my stint in the military, I kind of woke a little bit. I was like the last person anyone would think of joining the military, and I think I joined just because I didn't seem like it seemed the easy way to just kind of advance just through life, and plus, I thought, well, it's also a good thing. Maybe I'll change the military for the better on the inside, but no, that's not gonna be the case. And then best experience ever. Like I just went ahead along with it. Let's see how tough it is. Like the basic training, whatever. It's like simple. It's like I'll take whatever they throw at me. Just see if I could do it easily. The harder it is, the better it is. You know, advanced pretty quick through basic training, and then went to school, and you know, and then you get a lot of time on your hands. Like you could go out and drink a lot, you know, and party. I read books and worked out, and it's like, you know, what if there comes a time where we become, because it doesn't matter who's in charge, you follow orders. That's it. Military, they drill into you, follow orders, never disobey orders. It's like, then I go, what if we have someone like Hitler, and he tells us to like go and kill Jews or kill like civilians? Do we follow orders? And no one gives me an answer. It's like, you just follow orders. It's like, well, I'm not going to follow those orders. And so, you know, I grew more of a conscious and became a conscientious rejecter. The only problem, and here's a catch-22, you can't be a conscientious rejecter and get out of the military unless you follow a religious form. So if you're a conscientious objector and you're an atheist or you're an agnostic, they don't regard that as a legitimate conscientious objector status. They say if you don't have a religion, then you don't have a conscience, I guess. So I just thought that was weird. I just disobeyed orders and they just took me out, other than honorable discharge.
Dishonorable discharge.
So I had like 26 days in the brig. It was originally 30, and it was just like simple. Yeah, it was like a simple command because the chief of our division, he's been there since I was on the ship. He knew when I was like, probably not gonna follow orders. We're giving orders to bomb these people that were bombing back then. And the division officer, we had a new one come aboard like the last 6 months before we left on deployment, and so they knew that, you know, when the time came that I wasn't gonna follow orders. So when 9/11 happened, that was when I actually went, no, this seems weird because we're going to bomb someone else. Now we're going to bomb someone else. And we have like, who are we bombing? What are we bombing? How do we know they're the ones? So I was like, I can't take part of this. I don't know enough. So they gave me a simple order, like go to my workspace, where I would just kind of hang out to work. And I go, no. And so they said disobeyed following orders. I had my trial, I guess, and they said no, I'm not a conscientious objector because I'm not religious. So they didn't know what to do with me, so they put me on the brig for 30 days. But they got me out 5 days for good behavior, but it was more like 4 days, and I got other than honorably discharged.
Why didn't you just quit or whatever? Can you?
Because there was one other person with me that did our job on the ship. Usually we'd have 3 people, so we'd rotate 8-hour shifts. Because it was him and me, it was 12-hour shifts because there just weren't enough people to fulfill that position. And so if I just quit, he'd have to do everything 24 hours, and we were doing active like training runs. So pilots were up in the air, and I don't want to endanger their lives by just having one person not be able to.
Isn't that what happened when you like disobeyed orders though? It's the same thing, right?
Well, I gave them enough warning, and they, at that time, right after that happened, they actually flew in another person to actually take over my spot. I think it took like a week maybe, but they by the time I got out and talked to everyone on my division before I left the ship, and I met the guy, so they did have 2 people.
I'm still curious as to why you didn't just like quit instead of like disobeying orders. Like what made you?
Well, I was on the ship. I mean, like before we left and stuff like that, because I wanted to go through the process like the conscientious objector status.
Okay.
It's like it's not like I quit because the military was too hard. No, military is easy. I was good at it. I want to go through the correct procedures. Plus, we're on these training runs. We need someone to replace my spot. And, if you guys haven't found the person to do it within however many months it took, it's not my fault. You guys are military. You guys should be on top of it. And you guys know the situation. Are you going to really wait until we get into a situation to test my ability to follow orders when I told you, I'm not going to do it when it comes to that time? So that's also like the really bad aspect of like the military. Are they really going to procrastinate when someone says, I'm a conscientious objector, I'm going through the formal steps to it, and when the time comes, I'm telling you straight up, I'm not going to follow orders, and I did everything by the book like I said I was going to do. They didn't believe me or something, but that's pretty bad to have a military structure on a nuclear aircraft carrier to do that. You don't do that if you're in the military. You don't take that chance. And
trying to prep the thing or something, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so much of a risk in the scheme of things. It's like that was just the dumbest thing, and I kept telling them, it's like, hey, I'm telling you what's going to happen, and it's going to be crunch time when it does happen. You should get me out now because you're going to have to deal with me then, and you're going to be down a man. And but I'm not going to, I can't tell them what to do. And I think they probably thought, I'm not going to go through with it. So I went through with it. They had to deal with it, and that's how things happen. But
how long were you on the boat after you stopped working?
Yeah, I was on the brig right after that. I knew what was going to happen. And then I think right after I got it, what?
Was it like awkward or anything? Like you were like, well, I like quit.
No, it's well, it was weird because like I knew some of the man at arms, like I knew a lot of people on the ships, and they kind of knew my situation, and I got along with everybody. So
you got out of the brig. They took you out of the brig or whatever after how many days? You said 20 or whatever it was. And
26 days. Yeah. So they took me out of the brig to get my things because they're gonna fly me out of the carrier back to the states.
Straight from the brig to off the ship.
But I got to see members of the division, and I talk with them, and they're wishing me well and all this other stuff, and I asked them like what's been happening the last couple of days, and they're just running ops, since I was in the brig, and I sent them care packages when I finally got out and back home. If people know anyone in the military, care packages, junk food, porn, movies, send those are care packages. Send them some good stuff. And so that was that. It's like I wish there were some military people that I knew. Like if we got back in touch, that'd be awesome. But I haven't gotten back in touch with anyone. But it's like the best experience that I had. If my kids went into the military, I'd say learn from it. It would be a good experience, but know what you're getting into and don't do anything that you don't want to do, because they're going to be giving you orders to do things, and you have to make that decision whether you're going to obey them or you're not going to obey them. So.
Yeah, it's definitely like if you have that mentality going in, there's no way you're gonna last.
Yeah, you're not gonna last. You don't want a conscience. Follow orders. You're gonna be the best military person ever.
Yeah.
But like, if you've got a conscience, don't go into the military because you're gonna screw things up for everybody.
Yeah, they need a cog. They need a good, smart cog in the wheel.
Yeah.
Keep it around.
And you end up being a potential, rabble rouser. Is like, hey, that guy's not following orders. It's like, why isn't he following orders? It's like, yeah. But most people are like the globe earthers, as we are now with flat earthers. It's like they understand the system. They follow the system. They don't think the system's bad or lying to them. So they're okay with it. We just know that there's more to it. It's just like your brother analogy. I think it's the same with my brother, and I find it interesting that everyone I talk to, everyone who's kind of awake at this level, family members, even though we're genetically close in every way, and we're also probably like, as far as when we're growing up, we go to the same schools. Sometimes we go through the same teachers. We have the same parents. We grow up as similar as possible, but there's always just only one of us within the family.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
My brother was the head of ROTC. ROTC.
Makes sense.
He was the head. He was the top guy there.
Yeah.
Yep.
For me, it was just the people. I want to support my division, the people who are like, that's why people love the military. Like a lot of people, you get this camaraderie between the people in your group, not the higher ups. It's like a divisive thing. Everyone at the bottom is kind of against those at the top. Respect the top enough to follow the orders, but if you want to advance, listen. You're pretty much the group camaraderie that you have. You're negating all of that for advancement. So, like, if you're really within that unit, you're looking after the other people in that unit. If they fall, you'll take a bullet for them and all this other stuff. But if you want to advance, you have to think of it more of like, I want them to do all the work. I want them to be in the front lines. Because if I stay back and I fill out all the right paperwork and the forms and just focus on myself, I'll advance in rate or rank. And I feel like that's a shitty way to run an organization in the first place. But
promote the worst.
Yeah.
Promote the bad. People not looking after the team.
Yeah, and so that's why I was like, another thing is like, I told them I'm not. Don't even give me a performance review or just give me a bad one, because I don't want to advance, because I'm taking away an advancement with someone else. Like, I'm gonna be like I'm most likely going to be discharged. So why even bother to even put me in the picture in the running for advancement? So
Right.
I told them that, and that also brings like the group closer because they go, oh, okay, he doesn't want to advance because he knows he's getting out, and more chances for me to advance if I want to stay in the military. So it's like a win-win. And you know the people that there's one person in particular we didn't like, and we knew what he was doing. He was doing everything he could to get his decorations and a good performance review and take those exams so he'd go up in rank, and you'd never see him around. It's like his excuse was he's studying for the exam so he gets a pass, so the work spreads to more of the division. So there you notice those people, but then when you think about it, those are the people that you see that are higher rank, and that they stay in the military the longest. But the thing is, sometimes things change. It's like once you get up in a certain rating, there's usually like a freeze. So if you reach like a petty officer first class, or if you reach as chief status, E7, then sometimes it's really hard to keep advancing further. And if you can't get up to a certain rating before 20 years, they force you to retire like at 16 years or something, so you won't get your full pension. And they kind of become more relaxed. They're not so gung-ho. They realize they spent the last 16 to 20 years trying to keep going up in rating, and it's almost impossible. So they just kind of chill down a little bit and want more people to respect them, because they went through the whole time that they're in the military not being respected by their peers, but now at least they can get some respect because he's in a position of a higher authority. So
you have to respect them.
yeah, it's weird dynamic. It's interesting. It's it's military, corporate, whatever, political. I mean, they all have their structures. They all have their advancements. So anyways, it's 3.5 hours. I think we should call it a night. Is there, I know I took over the last thing with the military thing, but is there?
Dude, I don't have much else to say, man. It's been a really good conversation, dude. It flew by. I can't believe 3.5 hours went by for sure at all. It's been really a pleasure, dude. Really a pleasure talking with you. It's not very often you can find someone who knows enough, but you can still be relaxed about it and kind of like realistic. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard to find that. So it's been really nice, dude. It's been a pleasure, and I hope we do it again sometime.
Yeah, and feel free to come on in. I think I'll try to organize more of like a group thing. I know it's hard for people just to want to jump in on a topic that I do, but like you and Slick James, maybe other people who do like to chat in the chat box, have them come in and just have a group conversation. I think like when the 2020 election comes around, I'll be covering some of that just to tell people this is what's going to happen. And you guys all get excited, but it's just a big act, but people like talking about politics.
You heard Musk is running for president.
Who?
Elon Musk.
He is?
It's like not 100%, I don't think.
Okay.
But it seems very likely. I feel like maybe he did actually say he's going to. It definitely seems like it at the least, but it seems like he's going to try to run.
Huh. Do you think he's even popular enough? I don't think he's popular enough.
I think so, man. I think he's the number one guy that like has a shot at beating Trump. I'd say Elon Musk has that following. He's space, dude. Everybody loves space. Elon Musk, he smokes weed. Yeah,
but
he's
do they know what party he's running, or if he's not going to be affiliated with one?
For sure, he'd be the guy to oppose Trump. That would be
so like a Republican, he'd run in the Republican opposition party.
He'd be a Democrat. He just
okay. Be a Democrat.
Yeah, he'd just go against Trump.
But
or maybe whatever party he is, it sounds like he'd be the only guy I've heard of who could challenge Trump.
Because I feel like if you're going to challenge someone like Trump, the easiest thing would be challenge him within your own party. Because first, I mean, you're going to have to, if you go through the Democratic Party, you're going through like 20 people already or something. It's like, it's a lot of people. And a lot of the Republican nominees, they're not going to want to oppose him because then they'll be like you're just screwing up the chemistry of the party or something like that.
Yeah, my opinion on the matter is definitely just I think that if anybody has a shot at beating Trump, it's Elon Musk, who's worse. I don't know, just as bad. I don't know who gives a shit. Like, but it sounds like he might do it. Seems like it.
You know what my prediction is?
What?
Hillary Clinton is gonna declare that she's running really late because her popularity always sinks the longer she's in an election cycle. She's gonna everyone's gonna fold. The Democratic nominees are gonna fold to her. She's gonna go against Trump and she's gonna cheat her way into beating Trump, and she's gonna be the next president.
It's possible. I think that there's no way. I don't think there's no way Hill Dog wins the presidency. If she goes up against Trump, which I could see that happening, I still think she'd lose again.
But here's the thing. I think there's going to be more to it. I think they're going to force an economic crash in 2019 and this year, or 2020 early on, saying, "Hey, Trump, we're in an economic slump." That's going to be another hit. Everything that they do to just try to prevent the same thing from happening as 2016. Like,
it seems like it. Yeah. It seems like it. It seems like they don't want Trump in there, but that could also be another move to get people on the Trump train. Like, right, oh, he's not one of the, he's not part of the establishment and stuff. So they'd make all these moves to get him out, but really they're just making it seem like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get very distant when it comes to politics.
Yeah. Same here. I just feel like I know what's coming, but so I make these big predictions. I don't really make a lot of predictions. That's just one prediction because all the signs point to it pretty good.
I'm gonna watch it. I haven't heard that, so maybe if that happens, I'll remember you said that. My prediction is Elon Musk runs against Trump, and I don't know who wins. Let's say I have no idea. Trump probably will win. My guess is Trump will be the president for sure of the next one.
The thing is, here. With Elon Musk though, I think that is a good one because if he does get in and runs, it will draw a lot of attention into the political race, because they just want to hear what he says, and just because sometimes some of the things he says is pretty incredible, and he's not a politician; he's a big science tech corporate guy, and
he's the only one in my mind that has a shot at beating Trump. And that'd be such a huge story, right? For years, right? Oh my God, who's going to win, Musk or Trump? Like leading up to to the election.
That'll make Joe Rogan a lot more popular because they're going to show that episode with him smoking some weed, and then the news stories would be pretty crazy. It's like Elon Musk is running, he smoked pot on Joe Rogan's show. So
what if he'll win? He's gonna win, and right? What if he won and then he legalizes weed, right? Let's say maybe he's the guy that federally makes it legal, and then he's the most popular guy in the world, and he's the head of SpaceX, NASA.
I have a feeling that if he's part of the system, then we've got probably then
SpaceX.
Then we'll have the Mars landing, right? The Mars landing. We'll have AI military. Like he's gonna make an AI army. It might be worse with Elon Musk as president.
I think it would be, dude. If anything, it'd be worse.
Yeah. Anyways, that's a fun conversation. It was nice talking to you, Brian Fisher. People who are watching, he does have a YouTube channel. I hope he makes more YouTube videos. I think he will. And of course, if you ever need help with tech stuff, just let me know. And Usually it comes down to I'll make like a tech video how to do it, and it's good because a lot of videos get outdated. Like how you live stream or upload a video on even just YouTube is a lot different than it was a year or two ago. So
Yeah, yeah. I'd love to talk to you about like, cause I have a personal business it's like, it's an internet based. I'm like trying to found an app, you know?
Yeah.
So like, I know it's ridiculous, but it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on it and stuff, like just whatever. But yeah, no, whatever. Thanks for having me on, man. And it really was good talking to you. It's easy conversation. It's, you know, it's not very often you get to talk to somebody who has these kinds of beliefs and stuff. So it's a pleasure.
It's not a belief.
You know, I'm always soft handing it. You know, I'm always you see it. Like, you know, ifs and whats, and I have my beliefs.
Yeah. All right.
The world is flat.
All right. Thanks for coming on, and I'll talk with you later.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks.